Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I'm moderately distracted, trying to remember what level it is. Level 2, Lesson 9, Harmonics, because I'm busy playing a little bit of music today, so apologies. I don't have the sound filter on, so you might hear extra background noise. I'll try to turn the settings that way you don't hear my fan too much. I made the room like super air conditioned, so I wouldn't have to have the AC flowing while I'm trying to play for you. But yeah, no, I got my piano set up over here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's class is all about harmonics. And harmonics does include music. Here, let's play better. So let's, hold on, I'm pressing buttons, I'm admitting people, that's why it's just very hard to play at the same time. Class, here we are in music class, all right, so let's play this. Here's one note, right? Here's another note. Here's another note. Here's another note. And here's a chord. Okay, I hope the sound quality is good enough for you to be able to hear this. But when I play these three notes together, first let's listen to each individual note. Now let's listen to all notes together. Do you hear how it sounds nice in your ears? Happy, satisfying, good. There is a reason for that. And the reason for that is named harmonics. Harmonics basically means nested, perfectly calibrated sound waves. But not only sound waves, so erase that sound part and just say waves. Because it can be auditory waves, can be optical waves, it can be waves that are the ephemeral or esoteric energy of your time body. And we're going to talk all about today how harmonics basically creates you as a molecular individual. It also creates you as a presence in time. Time itself is a series of waveforms, like an ocean of waveforms. Collecting my thoughts here. And there are concentrations within that larger ocean of waveforms that we consider to be individuals. That's you. That's you, who you are, and your chakra system. So you are a waveform within an ocean of waveforms. And the key point today in learning about harmonics is to recognize that you must be the right size and shape for these waveforms to fit together and sound good. Now I'm going to do something that's going to sound terrible. So don't listen or like turn your sound down or whatever, okay? I'm just going to mash the keyboard. That sounds terrible. That does not sound like music. Let's do another one. Terrible. Terrible. Because in those two cases, what I did was just randomly mashed keys together. And the waveforms that were created were not harmonically perfect. So when I define something that is harmonically perfect, it means circles that fit perfectly within each other, or semicircles that fit perfectly within each other with no extra around the edges. Now you guys are students of my class, and so you've been looking at my drawings for a long time. Like, we're going to do lots of picture pages today, but the key point is to comprehend that everything in this world of waves and harmonics is based on the curvilinear form. So that's circles, spheres, semicircles, like a half circle, and sine waves, which is a half circle up and a half circle down. And all of those patterns move through various media, creating an organized end result in terms of structures in time and matter on the molecular form. So if you want to know, like, why is your matter shaped the way it is, the real answer is because your waveforms, the music of you, are going along and doing this thing that coalesces matter in these very specific patterns. When I should draw this for you. When I play these three notes, it sounds very nice to you because there's no extra hanging around the edges. So now I'm going to turn off the sound filter. So you turn on the sound filter. So you will not hear my music as effectively, but now I'm going to feed your eyes, not your ears. Okay? This is drugs. Okay, almost. The thing has to come up. Then I have to press buttons. I will not get frustrated, I promise. All right, good. So let's first draw. You can see that effectively. This is how we do math without numbers. So that's any number. Like this distance between here to here can be any number. That can be 1, that can be 2, it can be 10,000, doesn't matter. And then plus sign, familiar with the plus sign, we're adding these guys together, and then this. And then equal sign, you're familiar with what that means. And then this. Okay? This is visual math. Change to a different color to gesture. So whatever unit this is, from this point here to this place here, it is the same amount as from this place here to this place here. They balance each other out. In terms of thinking about a numbers line, we could think of everything that is sticking up above this horizon, like this red line represents the horizon. Everything that sticks up is a positive number, and everything that sticks below the horizon line that would be considered going underground is a negative number, all right? And what you have here is a balanced equation where all of the forces or numerical principles that are up and facing toward the sky balance all the numeric principles that are facing downward and go into the crust. And that leads to, equal sign here, a neutralization. One neutral number that actually makes it zero. That actually is the balance that makes zero. Like if we were to represent what this line numerically would be represented by, that number would be zero because it adds up to the still point. But if I say it adds up to nothing, then you guys are going to get confused and sad and angry. That's why I didn't say it adds up to nothing, because zero, or the empty set, is not nothing. It really represents a balance of forces. So the 0 point within my various different drawings of chakras, waveforms, and the flying rainbow lasagna itself is not a non-valuable numeric term. It is a neutral place, a balanced place. I gotta turn on my AC because I'm so hot. Sorry, guys, for interrupting myself. A neutral place, a balanced place, and really is a place of infinity. And it is a requirement for the sense of harmony. Harmony and harmonics fit together. Okay, so this basic premise here to refocus, a sine wave that points up plus a sine wave that points down neutralizes to a line, or basically no wave. That is what we're talking about when we talk about interference patterns and harmonics. Now I'm going to show you some pictures. Pardon my squinty squirrely faces. Got to mute yourself. Thank you very much. First, I collapse this. Privacy. This go bye-bye. Now we look at pictures. This is my music. We'll do more music later. And this also needs to go bye-bye. I swear I organize my screen meticulously every time before class. And I always get, nonsensed. So apologies. Okay, this is not my drawing, but it is a beautiful, accurate little drawing of what harmonics look like, how harmonics are organized. Let me take a sip of tea and walk you down memory lane. Because once upon a time, I came into the world as Aurora. I did not have a good vocabulary at all. I did not know a lot of words. I did not know how to describe what I was seeing and sensing internally and with my higher dimensional senses. I just drew pictures. And someone who looked at my pictures at an art show said, "Oh, you are drawing harmonics." And I just nodded thoughtfully and said, Yes, that's right. I had no idea what they were talking about. But at that time in my life, I had a huge, like mountain of things to learn about. The number of things I had to learn was very large. I always kept a little notebook with me, and I would be like, when I heard a word I didn't know, I would write it down in my little notebook, and then later on, I would go and look it up and educate myself. So I looked up the word harmonics, and I was like, oh, this is big stuff. This is definitely a word that describes what I am seeing, sensing, and drawing. So this drawing that is not my own is a very good representation of the basics of the concept of harmonics. This unit here represents 1, and this is going back to lesson 1 of level 1 of this class. The red chakra up to the orange chakra, all the way up to the violet chakra. All of these chakras are organized as non-optical light waves harmonically. And that means that they follow these proportions. Look, I'm where my cursor is. So I'm just wiggling, I'm not drawing. But my cursor from this point to this point, that is unit 1. And then here's the midpoint. Look at that. And we've got it divided up to 2 lobes. 1, 2. So we took whatever unit this is, we divided it in 2, and we got 2. 1, 2. You're like, Aurora, I thought you told me, ahem. Wait, before you go any further. I thought you told me that this was music class, and now you're doing like numbers and math, and I'm kind of scared. And when is music? And I'm like, this is music. Don't be scared. Okay, so back to it. The primary length of string in your instrument is unit 1, and then you divide that string in half. So what if this is 12 inches or longer? Think about the shape of a grand piano. It's shaped like that because there is a big long string in there that is the lowest note that is actually like whatever, 4.5 feet long, or I'm estimating, but it's pretty long. And then the next note is created by dividing, sorry, not the next note. The next beginning of the next octave. Or you just used a word I don't know really, but I've heard it before. Octave is a fun musical word. What does it mean? And I'm also kind of scared when you use words like that. Don't be scared. Octave means 8, just like octopus means 8, just like the octahedron when we did our class all about the Merkaba means 8. And an octave is something that has 8 notes. And I should count them out for you. We will do that on the piano after I turn off my sound filter. But first, let's go through this. But there are 8 notes in between this beginning string and then this next string over here. So you're going to have like whatever, a 12-foot long string. And then this one's going to be 6 feet long. All right. And there are going to be strings that are smaller, like 11 inches, 10 inches, for every key that goes in between there. So here you've got 1, here you've got 2, here you've got 3. The initial note is subdivided up into 3 lobes. 1, 2, 3. And then at this level, so we are now 4 octaves up. Look, here's the first octave, octave 1, octave 2, octave 3, octave 4. And we have 4 lobes, 1, 2, 3, 4. To create this note, that is going to be 1/4 of the size of the original note. This one will be 1/5 of the size of the original note. This one will be 1/6. And of course, let's not forget 1/7. That's just not shown on this graph. I didn't make this graph. So now stop share. Okay. I'm going to turn off my sound filter. You will hear the silly air conditioner, but I need it because I am melting. And it is hot here. I live in a climate where you have to have the AC on. Like, this is non-optional. But let's make sure, first of all, can you hear? Yes, you can. Okay, let's start off with what is a note. This is a note, one harmonic vibration of 1 string. And this note is the note called C. Now there are going to be 7 notes, just like 7 layers of the chakras, to be able to get up to the next note that is C. You gotta climb the stairs. Are you ready? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All right, let's do it with colors. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then in the octave system of music, we would go back to red, or C. But in your chakras, you go to white light, white light. I'm sorry, I'm very silly. Okay, so first of all, let's do it with your chakras. I'm going to tilt this so that you can see, beginning with red. And here, look, I'm playing the piano. You can see I'm a real person playing a real piano. Start with red. Red, orange, yellow, green. Tilting my camera. Light blue, dark blue, violet, white light. Let's show you on a picture. This would be incomplete if I did not share it on a picture. All right, well, let's start with this abstraction. Not this one, we already showed you this one. This one, but also, that's my notes, this one. Both of these, okay? So, because this one is perfect. Because this one shows all the notes together as a chord, but this one shows them not as a chord. Turn off my AC for 5 minutes while I do this. Okay, get ready. Where my cursor is down here, that's red. Orange, yellow, green, light blue, dark blue, violet, white light. Good job. Let's do it again over here. Wiggling my cursor. So this is red and orange. Red, orange, my cursor didn't move. Yellow, green right at the center of the chest. Light blue at the throat. Dark blue at the center of the brain, we're not moving. Violet at the center of the brain, we're not moving either. White light of divinity. Okay, good. Whew, that was a lot. Let's keep going with more pictures, because now I'm going to show you something else. This is your solar system. Let's bring it over here. Let's make it as big as I can make it, because I always imagine you were like squinting painfully into your phones. Okay, it's as big as I can make it. Object not drawn to scale, but check it out. This is also supposed to be an octave. Planets of the solar system represent intervals of music. Interval is the name for the space between notes. That's an interval. This is also an interval. So that's a bigger interval. Big, small. So here's the solar system. Here is the space between two planets. Let's do it again for your ears. Solar system. Space between planets. Good job. All right, good job. So, activating your brain like that is I'm very, very intentional with what I was just doing. I was just using both colors of the rainbow, letters of the alphabet, and tones of musical tones, to be able to help you to calibrate and know what is the basic structure of reality. These are not things that I invented. I cannot take credit for it unless I dilate my identity to being God, the divine presence. And I'm like, yep, that was me. I made that. But as Aurora, actually all of this stuff existed before me. And I learned about it and immersed myself in it, like learning the language of how you play music in this world. And then I created the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as an expression of harmonic truth. My way of being is a very intuitive, non-intellectual approach, and it is valid and highly accurate. That is like saying, if you look at someone who hasn't necessarily studied music, but they have an excellent ability to hear, excellent dexterity, excellent capability to be able to sense what notes have already been played and anticipate the notes that are coming in the future, that makes them a good musician. I am just like that. When we're talking, let me turn off the sound filter. I know that I'm very, very painfully aware of how bad sound is when I don't have that on. And then I get to turn on my AC again. I get rewards. Harmonics help you to anticipate the future. Comprehending time harmonics helps you to be a better navigator of events, because when you sense a pattern, like what I do with my music, I sense a pattern. I'm like, okay, we're playing, the song goes like this, right? Like it goes like this, it goes like this, it goes like this. And now we're up to this point in the song. And then all I have to do is be like, well, okay, if this is the pattern that happened up into this moment in the song, I can feel the pattern that's going to happen in the future. And I start to play that pattern. And of course, sometimes I might innovate. I might come up with something that's a little bit new. Like if I'm playing a song I've never heard before, or playing along with something like, other musicians or something that someone else is playing or has already prepared. Sometimes I'm playing along with my own music. And of course, I know and can anticipate from my own songwriting what the melody is going to be. Like it's not a surprise. But sometimes I play it differently because when you're making these musical choices on the keyboard or, with the instrument that you play, oftentimes a variety of different notes can sound good in a particular spot. Like if you're noticing the pattern up into this moment in the song, then you're going to freestyle, you're going to play new stuff after that. You could be like, well, I could play a lower C. I don't know if you can hear this. Let's do the sound thing so that way you can do it. I could play this note. I could play this note. But I could play this note. And they all sound good. And this is very similar to what I'm doing in my paintings, where I take visual harmonics and put together correct and mathematically pleasant combinations of these different colors and visual forms. And all of my visual forms add up to 0, which is not nothing, but it's something. They add up to something, I'm telling you. They add up to neutrality, which is like when you do Sudoku. She's like, we're back to math, I'm scared. But Sudoku is a wonderful puzzle game, guys, that you should play it because I love it. It's like a grid and all of the numbers have to add up in every direction. And that's what the harmonics of time are about. When the chakras of your body are comprised of a variety of different iterations of possible combinations of events, and they all add up and balance out to neutralize to 0 all around the periphery of your time vortex shape. Okay, so I'm going to drink a little bit of tea. I know I'm all over the place, but you're really going to get it from how I'm giving you the presentation today. You and your life. You are music. I am music. I have a song. I am made of music. I have lots of good songs. And also, I wanted to tell you, I want to read this from my notes before I forget. I have a really good song called Sweeping the Sands of Mars. And that is about exactly what I'm talking about here. I know I make the most ridiculous faces. Just forgive me while I'm squinting at like the very difficult to read computer screen here. But this is at the end of part 2 of my notes, all right? Learning to cultivate your energy field and use your third eye to consciously travel on longevity timelines has everything to do with healing the debris from events so very long ago. Right now on Earth is an opportunity to resolve and rectify all of the ancestral and planetary traumas of the past. This is the corrective experience. We are righting the flow of energy throughout the solar system, rebalancing the flow of energy over an almost uncountable number of years. It's an enormous task, big but inevitable. Okay, so what do I mean when I talk about all of that? What am I referring to? First of all, there are harmonic disruptions at the galactic level. And when I'm talking about harmonic disruptions, first we have to talk about the pristine, beautiful nature of the fabric of time-space and how that relates to cymatics. So I don't have to pull up cymatics. Like you guys know what I'm talking about. And there's lots of good videos on YouTube about it in order to display that to you. If you take a very, very fine powder, like a sand or talcum powder, and sprinkle it on a plate and then vibrate that plate. Like you can put a speaker, like whatever, like a speaker from your sound system, from your DJ system underneath that plate. Or you can use a violin's bow against the edge in order to vibrate that plate. But the key point is the amount of energy that you put into the vibration will create different interference patterns as the tiny molecules and particles vibrate on the plate. This is how the solar system was created. In fact, this is how the galaxy was created. The galaxy and all of the galaxies are created by what humans term galactic superwaves. They are not based in gravity, they're based in consciousness. Because whenever I start to talk about science stuff now, I'm like, oh no, I'm talking science stuff, I'm trying to build a bridge, but science is so screwed up that I'm not even going to try to build a bridge to it anymore. So I'm just not even going to say that galactic superwaves are gravity based in any way. Please throw it all out the window. They are consciousness based, or based in a narrative, based in a larger overarching consciousness, divine presence that is organizing matter and organized events in nature. Okay, so in order to make a galaxy, you have a bunch of disorganized stuff, like gases, tiny particles, all sorts of stuff floating around in space. And then you have this enormous galaxy-sized wave go all the way up and over through that stuff. And as it does that, it shakes and jiggles the little tiny molecules and starts to create interference patterns and places where the energy matter coalesces, comes together, like this is me packing a snowball, and makes planets. So the reason why you have that beautiful harmonic interval structure in the orbits of planets in the solar system is because that is how you make life. Like there was a big giant amount of dust and gas here, similar to the talcum powder on the plate. And vibrations moved through this area of time space. The consciousness vibrations organized that matter. And then some of these coalesced into physical planets like what we live on right now, which is like a dense planet that has a crust, has like a solidified presence. And Venus is that way, and Mercury is that way, and Mars is that way. And these are called the rocky planets, right? But then you've got the gas giants. We can make lots of funny jokes about the gas giants, the gases, and Uranus, but we're not gonna. We're gonna stay very serious and very focused. Gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn, where the matter coalesced, but it did not coalesce into a dense, small form like our planet. It stayed kind of big and not that dense and spread apart. And there's no surface of Jupiter. There's just cloud. It is 100% cloud. It is a cloud place. It is not dense place. And same thing with Saturn. It is not a dense place. Okay, but where I want to draw your attention to is the area of trauma and disharmonics and disorganization in the solar system. And that is the area between Mars and Jupiter. So if you have piano keys, and the piano keys are supposed to sound like this, sorry for my AC, piano keys are supposed to sound like this, right? But instead it sounds like this. You're like, wait, what happened to this note? There's supposed to be a note right there. There's no note right there. That note is the asteroid belt. There is a missing string in your grand piano. And not only do you have a missing string, like in your piano, a whole entire string has broken, but you also have 3 or 4 keys that are wildly out of tune. So that's Mars. There is a planet there, but it is a dead planet. It is not alive. What is the definition of an alive planet versus a dead planet? Alive planets have magnetospheres. This is my shorthand for the toroidal energy field that surrounds beautiful alive planets like our planet with attitude. We're alive. Mars is dead. This is big stuff because we're talking about sweeping the sands of Mars, which again is an awesome song. That is all about rectifying the fragments of trauma that happened on another planet that we do not inhabit right now, but the fragments came from there. The bad stuff, the shrapnel of consciousness came from that place and that event and lodged itself here. And we are dealing with it. And that's why I tell you in my notes, everything that you're doing on your planet right now, including your mundane seeming activities of like going to the store, getting some gas in your car, whatever it is, all of that is rectifying the trauma that happened on Mars. And by rectifying that trauma, you are also able to rectify the trauma that originates from, which is the blowing up, without a better word, demolecularizing of the planet that used to be between Mars and Jupiter. Sometimes it is called Malduk or Marduk, or sometimes Tiamat. It is described in various different myths and cultures by different names. Sometimes it is given the name of the thing or person that actually destroyed it. Can't listen to any myths or legends or anything like that, but I'm trying to find a common ground to talk to you about this. But even the very benighted science of this time recognizes that there should be a planet in that area. And each of these planets, harmonically in this solar system, represents a level or an octave of consciousness, just like on my piano. Lower notes and then to the right side, higher notes represent an evolution of the musical tone, getting higher and a higher frequency as it moves through the piano. In a pristine world, we do not judge the frequencies. Like these low notes are very nice and they're a major part of the foundation of the rhythm of the song. And then these higher notes are very nice too, and they represent the melody, right? So that's in a pristine system. But also you have to recognize that you're not in a pristine system. Like a lot of the teachings here about harmonics are tinged with sadness because you don't have a perfectly tuned solar system grand piano. You have a grand piano that once was a beauty and somebody effed it up a lot. That's sad when you see that, like one of these majestic old instruments that's made out of very, very beautiful wood and ivory or, beautifully inlaid keyboards and all that stuff. But someone has cut some of the strings. It is corroded. It is not well maintained. And the whole entire piano sounds out of tune, right? That's what your solar system is right now. Very, very distressing. And you're in a solar system that is out of tune, that is also in a galaxy that is out of tune. Because when we talk about the origins of the trauma that goes all the way back to that planet between Mars and Jupiter, we're also talking about, well, where did those guys come from? Those guys came from the Orion Wars, which is a time war that is still ongoing or being resolved through the events that we are experiencing right now, which is why we're sweeping up the sands of Mars, because we are actually sweeping up the sands of Tiamat, because we're actually sweeping up the sands of the Orion Wars. So this is big, important work. So again, just getting to the store, buying your coffee, coming home or your tea, coming home and making yourself a beautiful cup of coffee is like a major triumph in the galactic battles. You must never diminish the victories that you're experiencing when you do that, because those activities that I just described are really life affirming. And the disruption that happened at the original battle in the Orion Wars involving like the Lyrans or Lyrans and also other invader species had to do with the invention of death. So, you're not supposed to have a bunch of dead planets in your solar system. That's like having dead keys on the keyboard. You're supposed to have all alive keys. You're supposed to have all beautifully well-tuned notes that you play. And again, you're supposed to grow and evolve through the consciousness-based experiences and self-accretion and light accretion in your experiences in all of these levels of planets in your solar system. So there was a time even before Saturn was corrupted. We now know Saturn as a very corrupted, polluted planet that is really the home of a prison for some of the very worst consciousnesses, but is also an emanation of pollution. It really is more like a tumor. Like, it has collected a lot of gangrenous, horrible substances and putrescence there. And it also burps putrescence into the rest of the galaxy and beams bad thoughts everywhere. Like it's a place of disease. What you guys need to internalize from everything I'm teaching you today is that disharmony and bad harmonics brings you to dis-ease. And that is also truthful of the music that you listen to. So I want you to know the music and the tones and what you create in your environment have a direct impact on your levels of health and vitality. When I talk about epigenetics and the sense that identical twins do not develop identical diseases, that's because they do not have the same environmental experiences. There are wildly different environments. So you can really optimize your longevity and your path through life. I'm just checking on my sound filters because I sometimes doubt myself. Sorry if I got off track. Optimize your path through life by surrounding yourself with a harmonically optimized environment. What does that mean? It means the music and the sounds that you listen to should be perfectly organized sound waves where you have one that might be, one unit and one that is one half of that unit and one that is one third of that unit. So in your environment, think about this. Like your sonic environment. You can put on music, and it does help if it's tuned to 432 hertz. You can ask me all of those questions. Today's the day. Today is the day, everyone. Like lay all those questions on me, and we'll talk all about different tunings. You can put on beautiful music. You can put on the music of Bach. You can put on music that is tuned to 432 hertz. You can put on some of my albums are tuned to 432. Some of them are not, but I do intend for all of my music to be very harmonically perfect and uplifting. As how my biological container perceives and listens to that music, and it's very powerful. I wanted to get this across to you as well. When you listen to music like on your little headphones, you're vibrating some areas in your brain, but you're not really vibrating your whole entire body. But when you put music on your speakers and it plays through your whole body, you feel it. It goes through your membranes. So each one of your cells has a cell membrane around it that's like the skin of a drum. And when the sound waves come out of the speaker, they move through the membranes of your body like your body is a drum, and it stimulates and excites your body. And this is a really, really important thing for you to know for like self-healing, but also self-cultivation and improvement and optimization in your life. I just told you that disharmonic sound waves or waves of any type cause dis-ease. So some songs, if you listen to them, they will definitely cause dis-ease inside of you. And some of them are poorly tuned, badly manufactured songs. Some of them are intentionally poorly tuned with song lyrics that are also negative spells or negative reverberations of phonetic sound structures that are intended to speak through the membranes of the body to create disease. And some now of the music that you might hear or be exposed to, it's AI generated, and it is not good stuff. Like with all of my saucy attitude, wait, let me drink some tea. I'm like, just make my face like, it is not good stuff. Drink tea. Really, I'm telling you. Not only is the AI generated content an affront to me as an artist and an insult to the concept of creativity or what it is to being an artist, but I also think and feel and sense that there are some innate non-life affirming frequencies that are placed into some of these manufactured or concocted soundscapes that I will hardly even call music, that are not good to expose yourself to. So you guys got to also comprehend and know, like, the sonic landscape and what you're listening to right now. When I go into a diatribe, gird your loins, is totally not a pristine atmosphere. Like, you're not just listening to like a cassette tape that you put into your own player with speakers that come out. Whenever you listen on YouTube, when you listen on any of the streaming services, I'm talking about Apple Music, Spotify, even listening through your social media aperture, which is like Facebook or something like that, it all goes through a filter and a compression. And that is what the MP3 format is. So there are lossless files that are like a WAV that contains all of the notes, all of the beautiful peaks and troughs of that particular recipe of sound. And that's really going to feed your ears. But when it gets dumbed down into a smaller file, which is the MP3, which is what most of these audio files are, it loses a lot of the nutrition. So you're already listening to something that's like processed. It's not just like whatever, whole wheat. Now you're getting like processed white flour. But then also, once you take that music and run it through some of these song sharing systems, there are additional processes that happen that further compress the file, which means bringing the ups and the downs here so that it's not so dramatic, and also reducing or dropping out some of the extra information that that sound contains and dumbing it down further. So then you have like super hyper processed white flour. And then, so just so that you know, like, you're not hearing the real multicolor, multifaceted variety of frequencies that the artist put into the original. You are hearing a dumbed down version. And I think that, so the original artist's intent is totally changed. And also then sometimes some of these systems, like, I really am skeptical of YouTube, because I know that a lot of like the binaural beats, which are audios that don't really sound like music, but they stimulate different bicameral capacities within your brain structure, those are compromised. Like I would not listen to anything that is like a self-hypnosis, a regression, or a binaural beat that is on the sound system that is through YouTube, because there's all of this wacky hijinks of compression, but then also adding and dropping out frequencies that because you can program a person's consciousness through music. So you got to be super, super skeptical about the music that you're getting and whether it's good ingredients or has been adulterated in some way. And a lot of what you're getting is adulterated. So I'm a musician, and so I have a lot to be able to compare to because I know what my original file sounds like, and then I know what it sounds like after I upload it. I always try to upload when possible in the WAV lossless file, but I'm on all the different Spotify's and everything. When I listen through these other places, the songs sound very dead, and that's the only way I can describe it. Like my original music, when I mix the soundscape, like when you put on earphones and you hear the 360-degree representation of like all of the music that's in the symphony all around your head. Like you hear some things are closer to you, like some things like the flutes, they're going to sound like they're right up front. And then the drums, they're going to sound, or the bass, it's going to sound like it's far away, it's in the back. And usually songs are mixed so that the vocals are up at the front too. Like you really hear the words a lot. And they'll also mix the guitars. The guitar and the melody is really up at the front a lot. What I do is not a traditional, I do a very avant-garde, but very finely considered mixing when I do all of my music that I release. So that way you're feeling like your whole head is encased by sound. So you feel it all the way around. Like, yes, you do feel deep bass and things that are kind of behind you, but then you feel the creamy middles, and then you also feel other things that are up front. And like you might hear a little sound that's like a drum, that's a cymbal sound, like a little high pitched sound that you'll hear that and you'll feel that, and that will kind of tickle your ears and be like, oh, like I feel that little sound. But then you'll also feel a deeper bass. And it's important when you listen to music, like when you have it bathe your whole entire body, it vibrates your diaphragm, it vibrates the bottoms of your feet, it vibrates like your internal organs. You guys should all be super, super selective about who you allow to vibrate your internal organs. Like we're having a safe sex talk now. Like don't go with just anyone. Be selective. But I really do mean it, because there's a lot of music that has been created in a slipshod or roughshod fashion that is not very well considered. Then there's a lot of stuff that has been imbued with negative frequencies, and that goes all the way back to the manufactured rock and roll stars of like the 1960s and the 70s. A lot of those guys were part of like mind control experiments where they were like, how do we mind control all of these people that seem to be having a spiritual awakening? I know, we'll put some very diminishing frequencies into some of these songs and backmasking and connect the songs to like some demonic, crapola on the membrane of death and in lower astral. And then we'll send it out for people to listen to while they're on tripping substances. That sounds like a great idea. Okay. So clearly I don't approve of any of those things, but also I love music in general. When I first came here as Aurora, I heard all sorts of songs. Like I heard things by Led Zeppelin, and now I know that they worship the devil, like literally, not even figuratively. So now, like, of course, I don't endorse them as people, but I still enjoy some of their music. And so I've learned that I had to divorce or disentangle the original creator of a song and their original intentions from how I perceive that song and how I listen to it. But also that was like many years ago, when all I had available to me was really other people's music and pop music. And now I'm very selective, because now what I can do is I can create my own music. I can surround myself with positive, harmonically defined patterns. And same thing with my clothing, and same thing with my artwork. We'll get to that too, longevity through harmonics. And I can be very selective about what I listen to from other people. So now it is much less likely that I'm going to like listen to like pop songs from the 60s and 70s and all of that. Like I've certainly learned all of these songs because what I learned was that I had to have a common musical ground to be able to collaborate with people in this world. Like I came here loving music, but I didn't know your songs and your words and your lyrics and everything like that. So here's fun Aurora stories. Please come to my upcoming retreat and I'll tell you all sorts of stories about my life. But so there was a time before I knew a lot of these songs that you guys take for granted and that are your pop music, whatever, classics. And this is karaoke time in Woodstock. So Woodstock, they take their karaoke very seriously because there's a lot of like musical roots in Woodstock that go all the way back to the original festival from the 1960s. So when I first was living in Woodstock and I would attend the local karaoke, the musicians who go there are like very proficient musicians, people who are really good, who are very good with their vocal training and who know all of the words. And I remember watching some of them like really give a good musical performance and the crowd rather clapping and being very, supportive of them and, getting cheers, like these people would jump off the stage and everyone would cheer for them and clap for them. And I was like, I want to experience that positive social support. So I literally would write down the names of the songs from the karaoke book, and then I would go home and I would study. And I mostly studied, through YouTube because I didn't have like my own, I was not a starving artist, but like a very limited budget artist. And so I didn't have like my own stereo system. And this was also many years ago. I didn't really have a lot of stuff. But I could get stuff from the library. And I also this was even before YouTube was monetized, but there were just a lot of classic rock uploads and things like that on YouTube. So I could learn these songs. So I would pull up the song with the lyrics and I would I have studied the songs of your people in order to be able to comprehend and know what is important music to this culture. And that way I could make my music in light of and form, bridges and be able to sing along at campfires and other places. So I studied up. And I also remember, this is also good Aurora stories. I did not originally know the music of the band named Queen, but someone performed, I think it was Bohemian Rhapsody at the karaoke gathering in Woodstock, and people went wild for it. And I said to my friends after the song was done, I was like, that guy was great. That song is so good. I was like, yeah, who sings that song? And they looked at me like, oh my God, Aurora, like, how could you not know who sings that song? And I'm like, I'm a galactic walking, like, I didn't know anything. So they're like, all right, we need to go home immediately. They took me home immediately, sat me down in their beanbag chair in front of VH1, because that's not even a channel anymore, but it was called rockumentaries instead of a documentary. They sat me down in front of the VH1 rockumentary about Queen and Freddie Mercury, and I got an education. And I was so happy to as well, because I was like, this guy is great. Like, look at this guy. He can really sing. So I got very excited about that. And, just fun Aurora stories. So yeah, I studied up in the same way that you might, be like, whatever, an archaeologist studying an ancient culture and trying to figure out what is important to them by their patterns and their aesthetics and all that. I did all of that with rock and roll and the stuff of this world. So of course I was able to determine some things are my favorite. Some songs I love to sing, and some songs are, like have a darkness or some negative or occult flavors. And I moved away from those songs. Eventually, I started to be very selective about the songs that I would sing at karaoke because I was impressed. It's the singer Jill Scott. I think that's who it is. She said that when she first started singing, she didn't want to sing songs that are talking about like negative verbal manifestations. Like some songs are about like, oh, I feel so bad. I feel so sad. Like, they have lyrics that talk about those feeling states. And she was like, yeah, no, I was a struggling artist. Struggling musician. I didn't want to sing songs that are about like how bad my life was and how I was never going to succeed. And so she intentionally sang songs that, key point, your voice is a harmonic generator. She intentionally sang songs that were about her inevitable success. I want to say it's Jill Scott, but I might be mixing her up with Jennifer Hudson. Please forgive me if I'm mixing up these rock and roll trivia songs, but I think it's Jill Scott. And she was like, not yet a famous singer, but she was doing like woodworking refinishing in the studio. Like the studio is like, combined with all sorts of beautiful wood paneling on there. And she wasn't yet known as a singer, but she was in there like putting like linseed oil on the wood to preserve it as her job. And she was singing and saying that she was like wanting to sing songs that are about like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna succeed. One day my dreams will come true. And her dreams obviously came true in like abundant fashion. This is important stuff to recognize. All the things that I'm talking about are about how potent frequency and harmonics are in terms of programming our expectations of reality, programming our emotional truth, and bringing us forward into certain futures. You literally do sing your reality into existence with the songs that you are singing along with. So even if you don't consider yourself a musician or good or anything like that, please enjoy music. Don't judge yourself. You can divorce yourself from the original musician, but be selective about what the songs say. So now the songs, if I'm ever going to put on classics, oldies, sing-alongs or things like that, which I sometimes do when I'm doing different tasks around my house or whatever, I like to put on things that have positive lyrics. And I don't judge myself because sometimes, especially if I'm like working out or, running on a treadmill or whatever, I put on silly disco songs, whatever, that's what I call them. I put on silly dance music. I'm not going to judge you or anyone for putting on fun, uplifting, dance kind of club style music or for singing along with it. Sometimes that is what you need. So yeah, don't judge yourself and be jubilant and use music to bring up that happy and positive feeling state. But also, we need to acquire better ingredients. We need to start supporting the musicians who are putting better ingredients into their songs that we are going to be exposed to and that are going to have a cellular impact on us. And so 10, 15 years ago when I was back in Woodstock, I did not have access to a lot of independent musicians. Mostly what I had were the things that are corporate condoned, corporately designed rock, right? But now there's Bandcamp and so many other wonderful places where you can connect directly with independent musicians who tune their stuff to 432 hertz and do all sorts of alternative sound sculpturing so that the music makes you feel wonderful. So you don't have to listen to the devil worshipers and all of that stuff. And we can also support with our attention and with our money the artists who are making the type of music that we actually want to have in our environment. And also when it comes to live music as well. So apologies, I know I'm on an extreme rant here, but most of the music that is in your environment is very anti-health and very disease-oriented. And that includes a lot of the most well-known bands and singers. Please don't get me started on Taylor Swift, as she is not my favorite person in the world. I think that she's about as bad as Elon Musk and some of these other extremely evil billionaires. And also her music is very crap. So I know no one even ever asked that question, but here I am offering that to you. But no, I'm definitely not a celebrator of that musician. And I don't expose myself to her stuff either. No, I really just don't need to listen. Don't need that in my ear canals. Don't need that in my brain. And there's spending your time, your mental energy, and your esoteric energy on much better musicians. There's better stuff out there. Look for it. So again, good ways of finding it is through Bandcamp, but also there's a lot of indie musicians who upload our own stuff that does end up on Apple Music or YouTube or other places like that, because you don't have to only go through a music label. You can be an independent and unpolluted, undiluted musician in this world. So just look for musicians that are following those qualities, listen, support their work, share it with your friends, because we've got to create a whole alternative ecosystem. Grant incoming, because what AI is doing that is also super evil right now is data scraping the entire internet, in a data scrape, a big giant net going through the internet of all of the songs of real people who are making real inspired music, and then put it into a giant slop, right? Boil it down, make a giant roast soup, and then emit some very canned, inauthentic music as a result. And then the AI is making that music. And then a lot of the listeners on Spotify are even fake listeners. So the AI is listening to AI music, and it's taking the revenue away from actual real artists. So please know that that is a complete hijacking, so unfair. That's one of the reasons why I have other forms of income other than just doing my music, because the AI and other manufactured artificial evil things are literally stealing the revenue and siphoning it off from genuine creators like myself. And don't get me going on autotune either. Rant incoming, because autotune, although it's from over 10 years ago, when it is a plugin or a filter that you can use to put a bad voice into it, and computer changed the voice and makes it sound good. It is the fakest, I gotta say it, kids cover your ears, fakest shit in the world. Sounds terrible. And I cannot listen to that stuff. And once auto-tune started, that was like kind of, I don't know, like around 2012, 2016, whatever. It's around that time. Like music really started to die because you could have anybody, no good vocal training, no deep passion, but just take their crappy songs and their crappy delivery and put it into the computer and run it through this filter and it would sound better. And this is how like a lot of manufactured careers happened. So you understand that music went from something that's about like someone's deep passion, connection to divine intelligence, harmonic perfection, got turned into just another slop, another commodification, another thing to buy and sell. So when people have a good voice, what that means is that their vocal cords make perfect circles. And those perfect circles emit perfect circles in the atmosphere. That's called music. And when people don't have a good voice, their voice doesn't make perfect circles. It's shaped like this or it's shaped like this. And then they don't make perfect sound waves heading outward. And it sounds bad. And this is just like the laws of the land. Like, you know, some people can run fast, some people can't run fast. Like, just don't even pretend. The auto-tune is an insult to life. It is assault on your ears. It does not benefit or facilitate people to express themselves. It dilutes and insults art. Thank you for my rant. Okay, so we'll go more into that. Harmonic perfection has a positive impact on the health and vitality of your somatic cellular structure. You want to control your sonic environment to play pop music that is fun and uplifting. And also, you want to control your sonic environment to contain sounds that are neurologically pleasant. Unpleasant sounds include rolling garbage cans, garbage trucks, loud compressors like generators, sounds of motors running, definitely sounded like motorcycles and skateboards and things like that. These are all the things that my dog hates. So you can tell what is not a beneficial, benevolent harmonic. Disharmonics are things that make your dogs bark because dogs are excellent audio engineers. Their ears are so beautifully well tuned that they will tell you when your music is crap. All right. When I'm playing music out here in my room and like, if it's not good, Cheeky will look at me and she'll just kind of go into the bedroom back there. She can't slam the door, but she's like, go hide under a blanket. She'll be like, oh, like this music is terrible. And I'm like, okay, well, like the sound engineer just left the room. She can't deal. Obviously not good music, okay? I mean, these are just fun, lighthearted things, but very, very truthful. I can always tell it's the high-pitched stuff. Violins and other high-pitched drum noises that are sometimes painful for my dog to hear. She's like, that is a harmonic disruption. Get that out. So I cut out a lot of the stuff in my songs. But think about the environment. Like, you know, in our neighborhood, we have these garbage cans on rollers. Every Monday morning, everyone rolls them out to the front for the garbage trucks to get. And it sounds like, you know, crunch, crunch, crunch. It sounds very not good. That is disharmonic. And people just get used to these disharmonic disruptions in your environment, but they are not positive in terms of your life. So you want to take out the trash, but you know, like you can reduce the sound of these items so that you're not being exposed to that. So industrialized noise like that is sometimes seen as just a natural part of the urban environment is anti-health. You know what is pro-health? The sounds of nature. Not rolling garbage cans, the sounds of nature. Of course. So what do you want to do when you sit outside on a beautiful summer's night? You want to hear the sound of crickets, the sound of insects. That is beautiful harmonics. You can find this video very easily. It is the sound of crickets slowed down. That sounds like literally a hallelujah chorus, like the most amazing chorale that you could imagine. Sounds of nature are healing, benevolent, uplifting, and we want to bathe ourselves with those sounds. So that also includes sound of running water, like not the sound of running water, like if your toilet tank is broken, the sound of running water of like over a little stream, a bubbling brook, Or, it's another one, the pitter patter of raindrops. What's another one? Wind gently rustling through grasses. What's another one? Sound of birds. Birds, first of all, birds' feathers are completely antennas, that they are covered in antennas all over their whole entire skin, and they hear such subtleties and feel such subtleties in terms of sound and music that it's even beyond what dogs sense. So birds have an incredible musical sense. They are incredibly well tuned as organisms, and bird song is healing to listen to. So when you wake up in the morning on a spring morning and you hear the birds singing outside and you get up and you kind of like stretch your arms and go outside and the light of the dawn is coming on your face and you hear those birds, like that is pro health. That is healing you by being exposed to those frequencies of those songs. And imagine an opposite world where you wake up in the morning because you hear like loud motorcycles vrooming outside of your window. And then you go outside and garbage trucks go by. They have that loud kind of crunchy, mechanistic noise, like vroom, and then crunch. And then that's your morning. Which one is going to help you to live longer? Maybe some of you can't even comprehend that, but the morning where you wake up to the birds singing, you're going to live longer and your quality of life will be better. So this becomes something that is not just a decorative addendum to your day, but is the foundation. And that is how I look at music and my sonic world. It's the foundation of my life and my health. So I'm also very, very sensitive to bad noises. So me and my dog get along so well. If noises are too loud or are bad, we will simply move out of the environment. I always have not headphones, ear blockers with me, like on a little keychain, earplugs. And if you want to know the ones that I like, let me look on my keychain for a second. This is my ones. Hold on. Sorry, I got off there. Yeah. Sorry, I just went off camera to tell you that. Earpiece. Like I'm not an advertiser or anything like that, but I like them a lot because also like it's not comfortable to have like wads of cotton in your ears. So I got these really good kind that are very comfortable in your ear canal. And also you're functional. Like when I have them in, I can hear enough to be able to navigate my environment. But it's really good. Like if I'm at a place where there's loud music or a lot of people talking or any of those things, I use my earplugs a lot to be able to focus. So for anyone who might be like me, like hyper sensory and very sonically sensitive, get yourself some good earplugs like that and just always carry them with you on your keychain. So that way, if noises become too much, you can protect yourself. And like one example was I was in an open air Jeep when I was in Sedona and the wind blowing through my ears was too much for me. And I had to put in my earplugs to protect me. And she was with me too. So I covered up her ears with my hands to protect her ears from the wind. And I put in my earplugs. So just know, like, you got to have stuff like that ready for you. So that way you might be driving in a car with the windows open and even the sound of the wind can be disruptive and too much for your ears. Like this is important stuff. Let's talk about 432 versus 440 and stuff like sound baths and Tibetan chimes and things like that. I have a whole beautiful instrument. I didn't bring it out here. It's kind of in my bedroom it's in its case. It's staying safe in its case, but I have this beautiful like chime-like instrument. It's kind of like a xylophone that's tuned to 432 hertz. These instruments are wonderful. They are worth it for the investment. If you get good ones, they will be hundreds of thousands of dollars because you have to comprehend that good instruments are going to cost thousands of dollars. So that's true. Like if you're going to get a guitar that's really good, it's going to be like between $3,000 and $5,000. The same thing with like synthesizers and stuff like that. And same thing with like a set of, crystal bowls or metallic chimes or bowls or things like that. Like they're expensive for a reason because the good ones are perfectly tuned. The bad ones are not well tuned. And it's very, very hard. Like, how can I describe it? Like, have you ever seen an outfit that's supposed to match, like a blue top and blue pants, but the color blue is like not exactly the same? And when you look at it, you're just like, that really does not look like a good outfit. Like it doesn't really match, but it's not really in contrast. It just doesn't fit a little bit. That is what your ears feel like when you are exposed to some of these not well-tuned supposed instruments for sound healing. that your body is like, oh, like it doesn't really sound like what it's supposed to sound like. The outfit doesn't really match, doesn't really feel that good. So it's better to save up your money and wait, get the real deal, than try to go for the cheap ones that are really not going to give you real sonic nourishment. And I do have some good recordings. They're called Sound Food, that are my chimes recorded at 432 hertz, and I have them on like my Patreon and my Bandcamp, and I have them as WAV lossless files, so you can listen to them. Listening on your headphones is good, but if you can listen on like speakers, it's even better, because then you're actually sending those frequencies through not only your cell membranes, but through your cytoplasm. Because what is healing is that the sound waves organize your organs. They organize your cytoplasm. When your body is exposed to certain levels of like joyous music, like literally your heart, the electrical activity of your heart and your blood and the pumping of your blood becomes more synchronized, less effortful, and more vital and life affirming. And that's totally related to music. Many of you are also thinking right now, oh, plants grow better when we expose them to music as well. Absolutely. So here in my studio, you guys can't see it because of the way the camera is facing, but I have like a speaker here. And then on top of there, I have like a beautiful fern, a beautiful house plant. And over here, I have like a beautiful kind of like trailing vine or whatever. The key point is, I'm telling you this because I first got them from the nursery. They were this big, this big. And then they've been sitting on top of my speakers for a couple of years. But now they are so big that they have grown like several feet, and they're like big, long hair over the whole entire speakers. This is not by accident. It's because they're literally being positively nourished and fed and stimulated by the music that comes out of my speakers. I play music all day long. Most of the time, if my life is good, I wake up in the morning and I immediately put on some good music. I play and emit music throughout my day. I listen to music on my headphones. While I'm out walking with my dog, I listen to music while I'm doing my artwork. And sometimes I listen to music in the background while I also listen to some educational or informative video, because the music also helps me to mentally focus. But of course, I'm listening to stuff that gives you better mental focus type of stuff, not horribly disarranged music. Like some stuff I would never listen to because I'd be like, that is bad music. Most of my definition of bad music is that the sound waves are not well arranged. And this is actually something that you can measure. Like, this is not even just my personal musical opinion, but much like Cheeky, I run out of the room if the music is bad because the sound waves are crashing into each other. So now let's draw an example of what is disharmonic. Draw it for you. Thank you for your patience. A thing is happening. Okay, so something that is harmonic would be like this. Here's a thing. Okay, here's the thing. Yeah, this is the thing. And then this is the thing. Let's draw two nice colors. Take this small color. Okay, so here is a fatter. Come on, I need this to be fatter. Okay, now you can really see it. We're almost ready. We're almost there. Do it. Here's one, either sound wave or optical wave or a wave of some sort, okay? And then here is a non-harmonic interaction. If I have smaller waves inside of there that are not well calibrated, like let's say here's the midpoint, I would have a wave like this, and then the other wave like this. This is not harmonic because of, I'm going to show this to you right here, because of this area where I'm coloring in right now. This is extra. This does not fit. This is, I don't know what you would call this. This is like if someone is sleeping in bed and their foot is hanging over the edge of the bed, okay? Or this is like, whatever, your pants, and then this is the part that hangs over the edge of your belt. Like your pants do not fit. The stuff is hanging over the edge. I don't want to make fun of anyone if your pants don't fit. This is not good. When you hear this area between here and here sounds bad. It sounds bad to your ears. You're like, what's this extra stuff here? This doesn't sound good. It sounds bad. This is disharmonic. Stuff that is not correct. Let's draw another disharmonic, and that would be something like this. That is also not harmonic because you know why? It's too small. Too small. You're like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't take into account this whole area here. So harmonics means very, very well calibrated, very, very well measured, very, very intentional nested waves that fit like this and fit like this. And those aren't that was terrible. That last one was terrible. Yeah, like this. Okay. Fits just like that. So now I have to show you more stuff because I have to show, and I'm sure you have questions and comments. If it looks like I'm sweating, it's because I am. It's like very warm in here. So I want to show you the chakras, but first, I want to show you two things. Wait. I want to show you the chakras, but first I want to show you not this. No, a thing. This and one more thing. This. Okay, so when I first started, let me just get this out of here. Get this out of here. When I first started learning how to play the piano, I didn't know what the names of the notes were. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't really comprehend it. I didn't think in letters. And language is still very foreign to me, but I definitely thought in terms of colors. And so in order to comprehend the musical notes and what people were drawing, I had to associate it with colors. And I did. These are not my drawings, but I did something very similar to this. I literally colored in my keyboard when I first got my piano. And I did it with removable stuff so I wouldn't ruin my keyboard. But now they have cool removable stickers and stuff like that that you can use that aren't going to ruin things for you. But over here, this note, this is a C, this red note. And here you can see red note, which is also a C. And then this goes up the keyboard. And I didn't tell you how the silly keyboard is named, but this is just a weird nonsense of our present music system. But we begin with C, just like in the alphabet. I know you begin with A, but here you begin with the C, then you go D, E, like in the alphabet, F, G. But you stop at G, if you go back to A, B. So it doesn't make sense. Like here you are at A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That makes sense to your brain. But we do not start with A, we start with C. Start with C and go C, D, E, F, G. Then you go back to A, B, and then back to C. I know none of that makes sense. Deal with it. Deal with it. Don't fight Mother Nature. I don't know why they did that. But the key points are that we start with red. C is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, back to red. And that's an octave. And these are exactly the same as the chakras on your body. This is your root chakra, emotion, intellect, your unconditional love, honesty, authenticity, blue insight, Christ chakra, and violet connection to the divine. And that's what we're going through. These are octaves. When I told you graduate through the solar system, so this red up to this violet, that is one lifetime. Maybe you lived on Venus, then you graduated from Venus, and then you moved to the next planet, and you started off at red. And then you had to go through all of the colors of the rainbow to get to violet, and then you graduated that octave. So when I show you this picture, what I'm showing you is the human octave. From red, which is here at below your belly button at the base of your spine, all the way up through violet, which is at the top of your head, that's the human octave. And I know that we have 7 chakras, but octave means 8 because we include white light. Let's count. Red, 1, orange, 2, yellow, 3, green, 4, blue, 5, blue, 6, violet, 7, and then white light, 8. Okay? So you get 8 stages or keys or notes in your development as a human. And each of these notes also represents a layer of reality and emotion through time. So the part of you that is the slowest part of you, the densest part of you that is moving through time, the furthest away from your infinity or 0 point is red. The part of you that is still the closest to your affiliation with being outside of time is violet. If we could say these are like your body parts, your violet body part only put its tiny pinky toe into the river of time. That's how far in. 1 centimeter. Your violet chakra is just 1 centimeter into time. And your violet chakra represents your DNA, which is a bridge of light, a molecular bridge between yourself as physical, somatic, cellular self and yourself as a potential of abstraction. It is the most ephemeral part of yourself, and it is the part of you that is furthest away from your physical presence in time. So let's draw parallel lines meet at infinity. Sorry, make me silly faces. Parallel lines meet at infinity. We did the Renaissance last week, so now you guys are totally prepared when I draw this for you. This is like the frame of anything that you're looking at a canvas. Here is the vanishing point. Make bigger things so you can see it. 1 point perspective, vanishing point right there. Here is the horizon, okay? And then now let's draw a road. And this road is represented by parallel lines meet at infinity. Here's the road. It's not the best drawing in the world, but you get it. It's meant to be like a road. And if I make this yellow dotted line, you can't really see very effectively, goes to infinity. Parallel lines meet at infinity. The chakras that you're looking at in your body are going backwards in time. Let's get a color you can see it. We are beginning here in the red, the moment that's closest to you in the foreground. And as we go towards this vanishing point, you are going backwards in time. Now, when I stop share. No, stop it. I'm pressing the wrong thing. Oh my God, you have no idea. There's 2 red X's here, and if I press the wrong red X, it ends the meeting for everyone. That's like the blow up destruction button. Don't want to destroy everyone. I just want to get rid of my whiteboard for a moment. But now I want to start a new thing. This. When I show you my chakra pictures of people, what I'm really showing you is a diagram of time, where what you're starting with are these chakras, your red chakras, are closest to you in the foreground. And then this white dot is the vanishing point. And then these are the parallel lines. That's terrible drawing. Let's see if we can fix it. It's so sad. Parallel lines meet at infinity. You can see how they're kind of shaped like parallel lines. Here is the dotted white line, the path to infinity. All right. Okay, good. So in that structure that I just drew for you, your violet chakra that is all the way over here is kind of like, let's get violet color for you, closest to infinity. This can even see this violet color over here where I'm scribbling. But this place right here is the part of you that is the closest to infinity and is still physical. And then your red chakra is the part of you that is the furthest away from infinity while still being considered physical. This is the human octave. You are a physical being with a somatic cellular structure, and you are all of these layers that go all the way up to your DNA, and then you are also the potential of that white dot, and that white dot becomes the foundation of the next life experience. So you go through all of these octaves, red, I won't go through all the colors, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, hooray, I'm ready to ascend. I go up here to white light, but that is the beginning of the next. That's the foundation down here of the next level. And then you have to climb the stairway again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up here. And then you got to climb the stairway again. You have to continually keep on climbing this stairway until you're able to get to that point of pure potential, infinity point, or 0th dimension. Hold on one moment. Thank you for that brief break. And now let's get to some questions. Suzuka says, I stopped listening to anything with lyrics a long time ago. I got tired of all the band memories so many songs would trigger. Can't stand that either. I have to go back to videos 10 years old to get anything decent on YouTube. Totally agree with you. You know, lyrics in songs, it's challenging because sometimes I hear lyrics and I'm like, oh, I love that lyric. I love singing that. And it represents everything that I'm feeling in this moment. And sometimes the lyrics that I'm singing, I totally do not agree with. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll say like, I don't really agree with this, or I'll fill in the blanks with something else. Like if I'm singing along with that, I'll be like, change the lyrics so that it represents represent something that I do believe in. And I think that's really positive, that each one of you should feel like you have the right to take a song that some other artist originally created and to personalize it, to take the melody, the lyrics, other aspects, and change it and personalize it so that you can sing it effectively. You should make music a part of your day. You should use your voice in a sacred way. I don't always share this with you, but when I do my sun gazing, I often tone or chant in just amorphous, non-verbal vocalizations, just a sound that is spontaneous to what my body wants to make. Oh, sorry. I'm a tickle in my throat. These are aspects of personal self-expression and personal health. You can also use vocal toning to be able to positively influence your own body. So, there are things like getting chimes, bowls, and other recordings that are high quality, like, what is it called? Truthful, but high fidelity recordings that are very positive and good to bathe yourself in, and also you can use your own voice. And I'll demonstrate this for you. Turn off my silly air conditioner, my silly but extremely necessary air conditioner. So when we do vocal toning, what we do is sing the vowels. U, O, A, I, E. All right? And each one of those tones and vowels has a connection to either organs or glands in your body. So the U, is like your uterus, and it's in your red chakra. And the U is like your belly button, and it's shaped like an O. And you say it like ooh, like kind of like when you're surprised or impressed or something like that. And then the ah is here in your heart, and that's very much the thing that we say when we're like, got it. And then I is here in your levels of authenticity. When you say I this, I that, I am, I feel, A, and then E. And the A, E is sometimes kind of like slurred into each other. Okay, so now I will sing it for you. And you don't have to worry about whether you sound good or sound like an opera singer. I don't know what I'll sound like today. Oh, 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 ooh, oh, ah, I, A, E, E. Oh, ooh, oh, ah, I, A, E, E. And then you can do that all the time. And let's say you start to feel something like in your ah, in your green, in your heart over here. What if it doesn't sound like ah? What if it sounds like ah, like, kind of gravelly? You can hear that there's a blockage there. What you should do is cycle through. Be like, ooh, oh, ah, not that good. I, A, E, E. And then go through again, because that's like, it's the first Windex. With your voice, you're Windexing and cleaning and clearing aspects of your harmonic presence. And when there's an imbalance, you might hear it. And when you sing through it again, you clear it. The next time you go up through the scale, it will sound better. And the next time it will sound better. And if you really do this as a practice several times throughout the day, you can diagnose yourself and be like, okay, my uterus isn't feeling clear, or my heart isn't feeling clear, or my brain isn't feeling clear. Let's clear it up. And then when you sing, things will sound good when you're in a correct arrangement. First of all, this is real medicine. This is real healing, and the way that we did things in really what is known as ancient Egypt. Oh, let me change the sound settings so you can hear me better. And my AC back on so that I don't melt. Let me talk about ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, the idea of supposedly fixing someone's body by, sorry, I'm making such silly faces right now, by cutting open their skin and doing stuff in their body and then sewing their skin closed again is like a nightmare horror show. Yeah. Who would never do that? No, of course not. You would sing into their body. Like if someone had a heart problem, you would not cut open their skin, do stuff with their heart, like cut their heart with a knife, and then sew it all back up together. Again, that would be considered to be very anti-life and anti-health. But what people in ancient Egypt would do instead is to use vocal harmonics to go into the afflicted area and also tuning forks. And you can see amazing hieroglyphics and artwork portrayals of this healing practice, like in the vestigial traces of artifacts in that area of the world. Big, long tuning forks, like the size of a whole person. And they would use that to be able to put frequencies into people to heal them. So these are all amazing, very, very valid forms of increasing health in the body. Again, dis-ease comes from disharmonics. And you can, what can you do? I've already talked about remove disharmony from your life. That means get rid of your loud garbage trucks. Increase the amount of harmony that you have in your life. That includes playing music yourself or listening to high fidelity recordings of well recorded, positive, well tuned music. Let's talk about auditory harmonics. This is my life. This is why I make my artwork, and I have these balances of the rainbow colors in my artwork. So if you come here and visit my art studio, you'll see all sorts of different panels everywhere, but each of the panels has a good color balance. It's not like 100% red or 100% blue. There's a balance. It's like 50% red and then 12% violet and then 5% blue. Like I do that very, very intentionally. I've created for myself both a sonic environment and a visual environment that is highly calibrated and harmonically accurate. I'm going to do that intentionally so that I'm creating an environment for my life where I'm going to have greater levels of longevity. And I intentionally created my clothing and my homeware so that people can similarly surround themselves with my paintings, even if you cannot have the originals around you. So, these clothings that I did, they're in polyester and affordable cloth and stuff like that. I'm starting, you can see my dress form in the background there. Wait, let's see if you can see it a little bit better. That's my dress form there. So I'm starting to work with some more natural fibers like linen and cotton. And that's very intentional because the frequency of linen and cotton is much better for the body. It is a note that your body can hear, and it integrates with the music of vitality in your body much better than the music that is emitted from polyester. But these affordable homewares and stuff are good things to have around you because you get to be harmonically influenced by the colors. Seeing these organized colors helps you to be healthier. And people don't recognize that either. So think about an urban industrialized environment. There might be a lot of things like industry, factories that are ugly but productive. That's definitely not harmonic. The factories might emit sounds that are not harmonic. And also, non-harmonic molecular structures that are chemicals that don't help your health either. But they're also like not very beautiful. Like we live in a world right now, this industrialized world that is full of ugliness. The things that we look at are not really beautiful. They're not well proportioned. They're not well decorated. And this is so different than other times, places, and cultures in human history or in your life experience where surrounding yourself by harmonic beauty was non-negotiable. It's like, well, of course, we're going to build a grain silo or a building or something like that, but we're going to make it well proportioned. And so that when you put grain in the silo, the grain doesn't rot. And when you look at that building in your community, you feel positive and uplifted. And this is really the opposite of what we have in our current urban centers and developed areas. We have a lot of things that are so disruptive, so non-harmonic, so unpleasant to look at, and so outright ugly. It is very, very difficult to cultivate beauty in your world. So, of course, we're going to create a new chapter, a Flying Your Lasagna chapter, a non-negotiable requirement for beauty in our world. You can begin with your direct environment. So if you cannot control everything in your community or whatever, begin with your environment. And this is what I do. So of course, I live in an apartment and I rent this building space. I don't own this building, so I cannot make permanent renovations to it. So what do? Put up my artwork all around. And you can do something similar, things that are like curtains, shower curtains, bedspreads, the ways that you can bring color and pattern into your daily experience. This is really important. This, again, not some kind of like self-serving, frivolous, Martha Stewart type of industry, like more things to buy. No, really essential for your life, and for your vitality. Cheeky's finally here. She's not on time today. She's finally here, and I've already doled out bribes for her. But you want to say hi? Here, let's have a moment's pause. Thank you very much. Moment's pause, so that way we can say hi. Come here. Come here. Everybody needs to see Cheeky. Come here. We need this. We need this. Good job. Thank you for letting us be not so serious all the time. Okay, good job. So Cheeky has a lot of opinions about human music. And when we're in long car rides together, she does not like certain songs and she gets unhappy if other songs are played. But you know what always makes her so happy? If we're in the car and she's not feeling so great or whatever, bored, restless, I put on Steely Dan. She loves Steely Dan. All right, so that's Cheeky's favorite band. She calms very down. She likes mellow rock sounds. Yes, she does. Okay, good job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that little play. And then Cheeky, look, here's your food. Come get your food. It's right here. Get it. Foods. Foods. Yep, I already prepared the bribes. The bribes are right there. Okay, thank you for that brief lightheartedness, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for recognizing I'm a dog mom and for celebrating Cheeky. Okay. Let's check out what else you were just saying right here. And Suzuka also says, yes, chimes are nice. I have a channel that plays chimes. Good job. I would say, expose yourself to these positive sounds. We need more of that in our world. iPhone says, what is the best ways to clear and balance our chakras? I can't tell if they're all spinning or not. I just use my imagination. Okay, so this is a very, very big answer. There is not only one way to do this. There are so many ways to do this. And you do have to have the skills of perception to be able to determine how effective your clearing and rebalancing of your chakra systems are. So using your voice and toning as a type of self-diagnosis of the amounts of harmony that are in your body is pretty good. But you have to have an effective way to look in the mirror to tell, how do I look? How's my chakras looking today? So that's one of the most important things that you need first, to be able to see and assess and feel your chakras to tell whether what you're doing is improving them. So the vocal toning helps with that. Light is essential. You can change the functionality of your chakras and your whole feeling state by the type of light that you're exposed to. Not only should your light be of a natural source like firelight or candlelight, but it can be incandescent, but it can be like laser light or colored light. But you have to use the right color for your body. Once we get into any of these things that are about this fine calibration, you have to make the right choice. In the first diagram that I did here today, I showed you an upward facing curve plus a downward facing curve equals a neutral line. When you're trying to rebalance your chakras, you're trying to do that type of math. If your chakra is at an angle, how much energy do you need to add to it in order for it to become perfectly balanced? If you have this much of a curve, how much do you need to add to it to balance that out in this area over here? And these are complex answers. I don't have a simplistic methodology for you or something that I can say in 5 minutes. To tell you the truth, the answer to the question that you asked is answered in a lifetime of effort. It takes a lot of inner expertise to fine-tune your perception so that you can feel and perceive your chakras and then a lot of expertise to influence your chakras so that way they are in a better harmonic state, and a huge amount of expertise to tune somebody else's piano. So to comprehend that when you play the guitar, you have to tune your own guitar. When you play the piano, you hire an expert. Oh my God, I've never tuned a piano. It's very experts only type of work. But when you play the guitar, you have to tune it yourself. I think that that is the greatest hurdle that the beginner guitar players have to face. Because if you don't tune your guitar effectively, everything is going to sound bad, no matter if you get your fingering correct, because the strings are not correctly whatever apportioned. Okay, so you have to be able to learn how to tune your chakras as part of basic body maintenance and hygiene. And also, there's not a simple way to do it. You have to have accurate mirroring or self-perception and an accurate way to be able to change the tuning. And the knobs on your guitar are directly analogous to your DNA and your feeling states. So what you're really doing is transforming your DNA by intentionally controlling and contributing with your mind and your feeling states to the actions of your DNA. And your DNA is connected to your chakras, but all of these things are connected. And there's not a simple solution to just be like, oh, my thing is wrong. I will just add 3 units of energy and now everything will be fine. Like, it's totally customized requirement. Each body is going to require a particular recipe of healing. And then what you require today for your recipe of healing is not the same as what you needed last week or what you will need next week or next year. So all of these things, like, there is not one orthodoxy that's going to work or help for you. And she says, I was told toning was the best. I had good results because it's organic. Everything else is made in this matrix. Well, there are a lot of good things that are wonderful, like using a chime is wonderful. Using a Tibetan bowl is wonderful. Using the sound of water running over, water running in a stream is wonderful. Like, the truth is that we're given this world in order to help us to feel good. Like, there's not a way to be harmonically perfectly calibrated in a discalibrated world. And almost everything that we're experiencing in our urban centers, suburban centers, food, media, and social dynamics are discalibrated. None of that stuff is good. In fact, definition of what people think is a fun thing is getting together and making the chakras go out of balance together. And that is called drinking alcohol. Let's get together and have a party. We're all going to make our chakras go out of balance together. And also sugar will be ingested, which will make your chakras go out of balance together. And then you get what a hangover is when you have to kind of like get your chakras back into the proper alignment. So discalibrating yourself should not be considered a form of fun or community-wide celebration or entertainment or anything like that. We should make a much, much more conscious foundation of how we create our living spaces. So I can put up curtains, but I can't necessarily change the shape of my entire living space. Not the owner, right? We have to look at our communities and have a much more intentional planning of our communities in harmonic perfection. So, I'm never endorsing entirely a person, but Dan Winter has some good work in talking about how we need to change our urban centers and make them the way that our streets are laid out, the way that our buildings are built and proportioned, and the way that our community meeting spaces are created much more harmonically perfect. And also any supposed centers of healing, the buildings themselves need to be much more harmonically perfect. You're not really going to heal in most of these hospitals, not only because of the shape of the building, but because of all of the bad machines and bad frequencies that are inside. So hospitals are pretty much the biggest disharmonic place you can experience in your world right now. And it's the most disease-causing place, and people who are the most disharmonic and most diseased go there. So you don't want to go there. We need to change how hospitals are completely. And you know what? To their credit, like, I do remember when hospitals were very like sterile, ugly, bad smelling, and poorly lit. And I went years ago with a friend who was going for cancer treatment to some like oncology place. And I will admit, like the waiting room there had like live plants intentionally, a little Zen fountain intentionally. Like they tried to put some nice watercolors up on the walls intentionally. That was many years ago. I think that a lot of people in the world of healthcare are trying to figure out ways to make industrialized medicine spaces more harmonically amenable, better for the human body, but they are very, very far away from it because they're still doing like artificial lighting, bad fluorescent lighting, tons of Bluetooth. And when you look at not only patients that are in that environment, but also the doctors and healthcare workers, like the nurses, like they're under those fluorescents all day long. They're around the beeping all day long. Like the beeping is terrible. Like when you're in the hospital and the beeping is there, like that is not good music, not good music for your body or for any part of you. Like you're not going to get better there. Okay, so wait, sorry, diatribe, but you know what I'm talking about. Elmer, thank you for being here. Says yes, vocal toning is very effective. Someone calls it intuitive singing, and human voice has a capacity to heal oneself and others, usually coupled with body movements and slow drum beats. Absolutely. And I really encourage and invite you guys to do those types of activities. Don't annoy your housemates. Don't annoy your neighbors. Do it in a place that is sonically safe and appropriate. So I do lots of singing and music, but I do it in a way that is sonically appropriate because you don't want to be influencing or like coming outside of your boundaries, influencing other people too much. Okay, but I like what you said. And Elmer says I practiced piano for 2 years now, inspired by Master Aurora. Thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. Keep going. I wish to see public pianos in many places everywhere where anyone can play freely. Also, some musical instrument that's very portable. I also tried playing the harmonica, which can be carried in my pocket. Good job, Elmer. And I'm very, very glad that you are bringing that beauty into the world. And I'm very, very happy to inspire people to learn music and practice it in adulthood because it is a very vital part of your brain and your cognition and your neurology. It has to be cultivated. And it's just like a muscle. It's a musical muscle, okay? So when you are a musician, you got to practice. Got to practice. You have to play every day, but you have to play often so that way you keep it fresh and you keep your capabilities fresh and your muscle memory fresh. It's just like being a runner. If you don't run for several months and then you go back to it, like you will be huffing and puffing, like you will lose some of your ability. So I encourage everyone without self-consciousness to learn music, to practice it, to sing, to be a part of music. So, okay, here's the journey with music too. You begin by being a listener. Like this is what my journey was like. I came into this world and I was just like, I love music and I love listening to stuff and I think music is cool. And I was just like totally eating anything with my ears. I had no filter. I was just like, I love all music. It's great. And then over many years, I started to learn about like musical notation and what are they talking about when they talk about like the key of G or something like that. And then finally I got my own instrument because I wanted to not only listen, I wanted to play. There's a critical thing that happens. Like you get saturated with music, you listen to so much music that at a certain point you're like, I got so much music inside of me, it's going to come out somehow. I got to play. And in order to make that happen, what you need to do for yourself or your loved ones that feel that way, you got to get an instrument and then you got to just play. And I played initially in my little apartment in Woodstock where no one could hear me. I was just like, I am bad. I'm not good. I'm just going to sit here and play. And I played along with songs and other musicians that I liked and admired, like John Coltrane. And I started to learn and internalize his patterns. And then when I got to be a little bit more confident, I moved my little synthesizer piano into my studio, which in Woodstock was like much closer to the street. And like the windows were kind of like, on the sidewalk. Like it was a place where some passersby could hear me. And then I would be like, okay, like I don't suck so hard. Now more people can hear me. But even that was like 2012 or so, was so many years. I had still like a lot of journey to be able to saturate myself by playing along with other musicians. And then at a certain point, I was like, I don't need the training wheels. Like, I don't need to play along with someone else's song to anticipate the notes that are going to be coming. I could hear it in my own body. And I could create the framework of music in my own body and then put those notes together in a way that sounded good and pleasing in my own innovative way. And that's writing my own music. So to synopsize all of that, begin by being a listener and a musical appreciator. Saturate yourself, then find the inner journey or impetus to want to play it yourself. Get a musical instrument and start to play intuitively, and maybe get some tips and pointers, and then practice for many years. And then after you saturate yourself at that intermediate level of learning other people's music, at a certain point, your own music comes up from within, and you're like, no, I don't want to play someone else's patterns. I want to play my own patterns. And that's where I am now. So I encourage each one of you to do your own version of that journey, and don't judge yourself along the way. I told you, like, I sucked real hard in the beginning, but that's normal. And then when you play other people's music, it can be like, oh, I'm not a very good musician because I don't write my own stuff. Just you're intermediate. You can be good. You just aren't there yet. You have to keep going. And then after you keep going, then you get to be really good. And now I'm so good that I can like innovate. Like I can just make stuff up and I can just hear stuff. And it, I will tell you, it's highly dependent upon my instrumentation. Like I got to make sure that my piano sounds good and that everything is like perfectly tuned. Like I can't just make stuff up if things sound crappy. So I will tell you also, like, sometimes there are these free pianos and things that are out there that are in horrible shape. They're wrecks because they get like lots of humidity. They get rained on. Some of the keys don't work. And when I sit down one of those pianos and I try to play, I'm like, this whole thing sounds bad. Like I can't even try to make this thing sound good. So please be aware of that also, that, if you're a beginner and you want to start, or if you want to have some free musical instruments in your community, try to make them at least like halfway decent, because otherwise, like, it's so frustrating to even try to make a not good instrument sound good. All right. And Michelangelo says, thank you, Master Aurora. I can definitely appreciate the musical correlation. I'll email you one of my songs for a listen. Good. I'm so pleased that you make your music. Played several instruments and sang for decades. I am so pleased to hear that. So what you guys need to know is that harmonics and self-calibration and musical perfection and musical expression is an innate part of your being. You guys are all super geniuses, and this is what it is to be a super genius. You're supposed to be like an artist athlete, right? A dancer and a warrior, and also super musician, being able to sing with others, play along with others, mathematical genius, because music is very connected to mathematics type of stuff. Social harmonics are a big part of this self-cultivation too. What do I mean? Not every human flavor tastes good together. As I've been sharing with you, notes on my piano, some things sound like music. Awesome. Some things do not sound like music. They sound like noise or offensive. And so fun Aurora stories. Way back when I lived in Woodstock, and I lived in a community of like all just very like humble artists and musicians or whatever. My apartment complex there was a large backyard, and I would often have like a campfire and have people come around the campfire. Like that was our big entertainment. All right, we're gonna burn some logs together. And the amalgamations of people, like the social groups that I would invite, like now you would be like, Aurora, like how could you not know? But I was very innocent. I just invited all the people that I knew. I'd be like, yeah, like having a campfire, come on over. And I had to learn that not all flavors of human beings taste good together or sound good together. That some social groups do not merge effectively, and that they might be actively hostile towards one another or create like conflict instead of beautiful harmonics. And after that, I was like, oh, like not all of my friends are friends with each other. All of these people don't fit together. I have to be more socially perceptive to know what are the human dynamics, what are the human notes that sound good together. So that was a fun way for me to learn, because I came here with a very mathematical presence, and I didn't really comprehend that humans don't all harmonically integrate their personality characteristics. And I had to kind of listen and be like, these humans don't add up. Like the math isn't mathing here. And then I learned who are the people that have affinity for one another and not animosity, and how to separate these groups. But all of that took a lot of expertise. I did not come here with that. So much hilarity ensued at my various mishmash, whatever, social attempts at social sculpture that did not come out that good. But this is important to understand. So like for me, it was very easy to comprehend harmonics on a visual, auditory, measurable sense, but it was harder for me to comprehend the harmonics of human dynamics. But this is a real thing. It's group dynamics. That is when you are sometimes, effective in teaming up and amplifying and complementing one another's characteristics. And sometimes you might be in disharmony or conflict, like I drew for you that picture where some of the waveforms are outside, like extra, hanging over your belt buckle, extra stuff, or sometimes not enough. When you look at human dynamics and group dynamics in this way, actually it can be very helpful because there's less arbitrary judgment and more like truthful assessment by characteristics. So it's not just like, I don't like so-and-so, don't invite them to the campfire. It's more like saying their frequency and who they are and the rate at which they are moving with their energy is not complementary. It does not mesh effectively with the rest of the energy of this group. And when I look at things in that way, then you don't have to worry about social propriety, being cruel, hurting someone else's feeling, or other aspects of rejection or inclusivity. Just like that flavor does not belong in this cake. And that is fine. And then what you do is make sure that you create, different events. That flavor will be in a different event, different cake, if ever. And that's very fair for us to be that way. So, because you're moving into a new chapter in humanity, leaving away and not bringing forward the dysfunctional dynamics of your former world. But you must have boundaries, and this is part of what boundaries is. So when I play a song, I do not play every note on my piano at once. It's 88 keys. I do not play all 88 keys at once. Play like 3 or 4 notes at once. I am extremely selective. Think about how many humans are in this world. You are not desired or required to play all 88 keys in your relationship with all of these people or in the groups that you create with all of these people. Totally appropriate for you to be like, well, I'm just going to have this quality of people in this group and this quality of people in this group. That is what it means when you talk about a major or a minor key. So on the piano, there's black keys and white keys. Let's show it to you. Show you the pictures. You can see what I'm talking about here. In the piano, there are black keys and white keys. The white keys in this photo are colored the rainbow. These white keys are the major keys and the black keys are the minor keys. And they are both tuned slightly differently and they don't all match and sound good together. So you can play a song very easily that's all white keys. You can play a song very easily that's all black keys. But it is hard to play a song and make it sound good that integrates both the white and the black keys. When you do a good job of it, it sounds great. And that's what a lot of jazz music is about. So here's another, I know I'm walking down memory lane a lot and I should get focused, but I'm feeling a little silly. Way back in Woodstock when I was first learning how to play the piano, I had a friend who was also an adult in the early stages of learning how to play the piano. And he had an official piano teacher. And I was just like teaching myself through, like playing along and being very intuitively guided. All right. So we were both at this little open mic and going to play some of our early attempts at performing in front of other people. And he was talking to me about the songs that he was learning. And I was like, yeah, and I'm playing this one. And he's like, well, I can't play that song because it involves black keys. And I'm only allowed to play with the white keys. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, my piano teacher says I'm not ready for the black keys yet. I'm only allowed to use the white keys. And then I'll graduate and be able to play songs with black keys too. And I was amazed that that could be even a thing. It's like saying, like, I want to bake a cake, but I'm only going to use like carbohydrates and no fats. Like, but I'm like, you can't make a cake out of that. But somehow he was going to do that. And I thought that was very funny. I don't know if my delivery like Aurora's comedy hour like fell flat, but I thought it was very funny at the time. Because the truth is, like, you can't really play a song without involving some of the black keys. And I thought that was rather ridiculous that he had a teacher that was like, no, you're not ready for that. Just focus on this stuff too. I think that he probably was doing him a disservice. But you must learn the patterns. Can't just be like, okay, I'm just not going to deal with the minor keys. I'm only going to play the major chords. You will be amputating a huge amount of the musical repertoire from yourself if you do that. So what you have to do is learn the patterns. Music is harmonic patterns. And on the piano keyboard, there are different patterns that you make with your fingers that make beautiful sounds. That are patterns that your mind and your neurology and your brain enjoys. Of course, the sense of calibration is ethnocentric and anthropocentric. So what we are calibrated to, what we think is good and what our brain enjoys, has to do with your culture. Different cultures have different musical structures. There's what is known as Western musical structure, which is what I just taught you, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But then there's also Eastern or Asian musical structure, which has a completely different interval structure for how far apart the notes are set. And so if you have a grand piano that is tuned for Western music, there's a lot of songs from the continent of India you cannot play on that instrument because they tune their music differently. Same thing with a lot of songs from China that you could not play on a Western piano because on the piano, the notes are like very set. You don't have a lot of wiggle room. But on something like a violin, you can change the tuning and it is fretless. You have a lot of notes in between the notes and more of a capacity to play with those notes. And if you look at the instruments of Asia, we're looking at like the sitar and some of these other guitar looking at stringed instruments that are from that culture and where you're able to, it's a fretless scale and you're able to change the tension of the strings to conform to their musical scales. So you have lots of different musical scales other than do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. All right, just understand that's the basics and that's Western music, but that's not all the same. So if you come from areas of China or India, your brain might be shaped differently than my brain. And you might hear the rock and roll music of Led Zeppelin differently because it's coming through both your cultural filter of what you think music should sound like and also your training of your brain and your training of your ears and your training of your perception of what you think is music. And if you're from the United States or Canada and you listen to music from China or from India, you might be like, that music sounds strange to me and I don't know what to do with it because it doesn't fit with my cultural preconceptions or the way that my whole entire brain and ability to perceive music has been trained by everything I've been exposed to since a tiny child. So just recognize that there are neurological chasms between humans in the diversity of how you're calibrated here. And not everything sounds good to everyone. And that is to be celebrated. Please celebrate that because you don't want one giant homogenized slop of culture. You want individualized culture. You want Japanese music to sound Japanese, and it sounds that way because of its tonal structure. And then you want rock and roll music to sound like rock and roll, and you want the blues to sound like the blues. Like you want these things. You want that. And there's not a judgment on right and wrong, but there is a judgment on like whether things conform to the ultimate assessments of goodness of their thing. Like there's good music and bad music in all these different types of situations. The question is, how harmonic is it? Like you can have different rainbows. Like you can have a rainbow where you start off with a red that's like a fire engine red or a strawberry red, but you can start off with a rainbow where the red is like a very magenta red, a very pinkish red, and then calibrate all of the other colors in that way. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about the different scales. It's the word I was looking for. So there's major scale, minor scale, and then there's all these other ones that have scary names like Dorian, Phrygian. I have a whole thing, and I have to know this because it matters to my synthesizer settings. But I am a musician and I am intimidated by this stuff because when I pull up my synthesizer settings and it's like, I want this to be in E minor, but it's like, do you want it to be like Ionic, Dorian, Phrygian, lyrical, this or that, all these things. Like it's very, very intimidating. So now we can have this whole conversation about 432 versus 440 because it's on that level. But wait, let's get on over to here. Okay, so let me get over to here, to here, to here, to here. Mary Ellen says, I was listening to this numerologist and he was talking about Chinese astrology and explained which animal year were enemies, frequencies. I totally understand that. And so you can look at certain levels of astrology as representing frequencies and harmonics because each of the planets are these harmonic rings, and also the stars and the movements at larger levels represent harmonic mechanics in the larger galactic structures. So that's accurate. But I don't really relate to most of these schools of thought and worldviews about astrology. I don't really resonate with it. And a lot of it has to do with the human viewpoint and poetic allegories and stuff about being on the certain calibrated from Earth as planetary infrastructure. And I'm just like not calibrated in that way. So that's why I don't do it, but other people do it. So I'm glad if you're able to comprehend the world through that filter. And also I'll joke like much of human history, just human motivations being like opaque. I'm like, I do not comprehend. Like these motivations are totally opaque to me. So whether people get along or don't get along, that's what was so funny about me. That I'm just like, oh, all of these people will get along, great. And I was like, they did not. And I had some blowups at my parties. People had to be ejected because they did not all get along. But I had to learn that, and now, of course, I've learned that very, very effectively. And now, very, very discerning. And Suzuki says, "Yeah, rooster, horse, and cat do not harmonize." I understand. Um, when musicians are playing it in the symphony, the very beginning of the symphony, what you hear are the musicians tuning up, and they're in the orchestra pit or on the stage, and they all subtly change the tuning of their own individual instrument so that they complement one another and can play together. And this is tuning up, but this is the essence of harmonics. So when you have a violin, your instrument is this big. When you have a cello, your instrument is this big. The cello does not saw a piece of itself off and amputate itself so it can play the same music as the violin. Far from it. The violin will be playing the same notes, but at a higher level of the scale, and the cello will be playing at a lower level of the scale. But they will all be playing music that is in tune and harmonically complementary. It means that all of their sound waves will be perfectly nested and fit together in mathematically pleasant formations. This is the essence of what true human dynamics should be. If you are a cello, you should not amputate aspects of your personality to be able to integrate with another person who is a violin. You should be your true size, but you should change your tuning slightly so that way you and the other person who is a violin are in tune. Literally think about people's bodies. Some people have a smaller body, like a violin. Those people might be great ballerinas or acrobats, but they are not a linebacker who weighs like 500 pounds and is meant to be like, the unstoppable machine on a football field, like, or whatever. I want to say like a brick shit house. That is not what they're supposed to do. Acrobats and ballerinas are small and light and flexible, and football players are big and giant and heavy. They are a cello or a bass or a giant tuba in the band. You don't want a giant 500-pound football player to try to starve themselves. They can be like a 90-pound ballerina. No. We want football player to be who he is. We want ballerina to be who they are. And we want all of these bodies to reach the pinnacle of beauty and athletic achievement that they can reach. Okay? Same thing with your personalities. People have innately divergent personalities. Not everybody's the same. Some people love to stay home and read books, and some people love to get out and talk with people. And these are just very, very different forms of human dynamic instrumentation. And we cannot expect personality characteristics to be interchangeable or all equitable. That's what harmony is. So I'm trying to give you on an anthropomorphic view of harmonics. Mostly I'm comfortable speaking on the level of pure abstraction, where I describe harmonics as mathematical truth. And the beauty that is derived from harmonics is a mathematical beauty. It's unarguable. There's no way to take issue with it. If you look at something like the Parthenon, ancient Greece, it's in ruins now, but you can still see the harmonic perfection of how the columns, the math, the numbers, the way that it has been created. And that's why parts of it are still standing, even though it's thousands of years old. Harmony brings longevity. All right, let's talk about opera singers. Opera singers have trained their vocal cords to make perfect circles. And when they make those perfect circles here, the perfect circles emanate outward into the world. And those perfect circles can shatter glass and also go very far. Opera singers do not need microphones to sing incredibly loud. And they're loud because they're good at what they do. Their circles are perfect, all right? This is the essence of what I'm trying to teach you, that when you are cultivated and harmonically perfect, you have a longevity. And for an opera singer, that is about their unamplified voice. But for others, it is about our time presence, or our body of time, where you're made out of time harmonics, and you're made out of a complex interwoven tapestry of time waves that are potentials of narratives and expressions of what you can do in time. And music is based in time. That's why it's very similar to music. And you must also be like rhythmically effective in time to be able to stay alive. But when you are embodying these perfect time harmonics, you have greater levels of coherence and longevity. You stay together and you keep going through time. Just like an opera singer's voice, the notes stay together and they go forward in time, and they're very loud. So what's supposed to happen in our world is that weak voices, not good personality characteristics, not well-formed recipes of a person's being or character, do not have a coherence and a longevity. They go a little bit, but then they dissolve, lose form, peter out. And people who have coherence have personality characteristics that stay together and continue to move through time and don't die, and have an eternal sense of self. I just switched tracks because I realized I had to talk about this particular drawing here, the different layers of your chakras and how they are all interdependent. So let's make this bigger so that you can see this relevant area. This edge is the edge of yellow. See, this is the yellow vortex. And this edge of this vortex that is in yellow goes along this line here, which is orange. See how this is the lower margin of the orange vortex? That means there's an interdependence and a relationship between yellow, the intellect, and orange, the feelings. Let's look at this one over here. This is your light blue edge of your vortex, and it is touching the green vortex here. Light blue is communication and authenticity, and it is directly connected to aspects of the heart and unconditional love. Those are aspects of your non-physical personality that are reliant upon or interdependent upon one another. Got a relationship, man. Got a relationship between your thoughts and your feelings. Yellow intellect and orange feelings. You've got a relationship between your truth, authenticity, and your voice, and your unconditional love. And over here, you've got complex relationships in your higher faculties. You have the relationship between your indigo chakra, reliant upon authenticity. You have your violet chakra, reliant upon your indigo chakra. You have your indigo chakra here in the well of your heart, where you're connecting to the center of your your unconditional love presence. You also have direct connections between your dark blue and your orange, although I know it's a little bit difficult for you to be able to see it amidst all these lines that are here, but here is an orange line that connects right here to this dark blue vortex. So the dark blue vortex is like a wheel that goes around in a track that is created by the orange. It's in a cleft. It's in a cleft, a bosom. The indigo chakra of Christ consciousness is held within the bosom of mammalian emotions at the orange level. Okay, so all of this in order to say that there are harmonic relationships between the layers of your being that are moving at different rates. And that, first of all, you have a harmonic presence. All of this adds up to something. When you play all 88 keys of your genetic piano, it does all add up to something. It adds up to divine mind, the white light of pure consciousness, okay? When you take all of these aspects of self that are moving at a variety of different rates through time, and you throw them all together into your, I'm going to say cauldron or soup pot or whatever, push them all together and make a recipe out of it, what you end up with is pure white light, which is the light of divinity and the light of divine consciousness. That's the essence of what you're trying to do with all of your calibrations. What you're really trying to do is to make it so that your whole entire body is instrument of truth, and everything that when you add up all the individual pieces of who you are, you add up to truth. And also, as you are an individual portion of the larger ocean of consciousness, when you add up with you plus everyone else who's a real person, adds up to the light of pure truth. Okay, we're heading into the home stretch. I want to make sure I get all the questions and then go through my notes to make sure I get everything that's important. Okay. Mary Ellen says, how do we stay in harmony in an insane world? LOL. Girl. Yeah. I'll drink a cup of tea. Hold on a second. Because the truth is, it ain't easy. I do a lot of coping mechanisms and a lot of things to stay in a harmonic balance. Greatly limit my exposure to the dysfunctional, diseased, and disharmonic environment that I'm in. That's one of the big things. Like, as I've been here as Aurora for like over 20 years, I've become more in control of my environment. Like in other times and of my life, I lived with other people. So I was not as in control of my environment, like my sonic environment, or how much artwork I could put up around my house to see, or other things like that. And so I found that I had to distance myself from disharmonic people and to gain control over my own environment. Once I did that, I was able to cultivate a harmonic environment. More fun Aurora stories. Walking down memory lane here with you. Okay, so when I was a custom framer, it's like 15 to 18 years ago, I had people coming up to me at the framing shop all the time who were just not good people. They were not harmonically well arranged. They were not intellectually gifted. They were not kind. They were sometimes self-centered and idiotic and cruel and just not good to be around. And their presence was a disharmony in my life. I would not choose to interact with these people. When I interacted with them, I definitely felt a destabilization in my chakras, a draining of energy, like I was moving slower, and like I was less happy, less fortified, less engaged with life. And I remember making the conscious wish. I was like, I can't wait for the day in my life when I am totally in control of who I interact with, or whom I interact with, and who I do not interact with every day. When I'm in control of the people that I allow into my presence, and that will be such a wonderful, fun experience. I now have that life. Just please know that I wished for that life and then I engineered it for myself, because I really had to comprehend when I first came here that there's a wild diversity of quality in the people who are here. Some people are very, very disarranged and are heading towards greater levels of entropy. They ain't getting better. They're getting worse. and they're not trying to get better. Some people are a work in progress, they are imperfect, and they are getting into greater levels of self-organization and divine connection. And I really had to recognize early on here, like some people, like they are sweat hugs, they are not learning and growing, and that they make me go out of tune by their presence. So what I did over many, many years was find the ways that I could be selective with who am I talking to? Who am I sharing my energy with? Who am I forming commerce with? And then to be selective using, harmonic criteria. So that you guys are in my class. You add to my harmonic benevolence in my life. If you didn't add to my harmonic benevolence, like I wouldn't have you in the class. All right. And same thing with people who are my friends, my community members. I do not live with other human beings right now, but whatever, when I've had roommate situations, like you have to be really, really selective about who you are interacting with. That's the major upshoot here. So for all of the people that are wonderful people here in my class, you're probably not going to be a good harmonic match for 98% of the people who are in this world. You're probably not going to match well or live well with people who are interested in like watching football and drinking beer or reducing their consciousness, people who enjoy propaganda and watching the propaganda of the news every day. Like there's just a lot of people that you're not going to harmonically integrate with. It's a good example from not so long ago. I lived across town a couple of years ago with my housemate owned the house, and I rented some rooms from him. And he came home from his job as a plumber each day and turned on the nightly news and, drank a beer and yelled at the TV. And that is so harmonically not who I am. We did not harmonize emotionally as lifestyles and as people. And that is why I don't live in that house anymore. So this is not about the morality or overall value of that human being, but it is just an innate thing, like saying these flavors don't sound good together, or these notes on the piano don't sound good together. These people don't sound good together. And so a lot of how to stay harmonically balanced in a world that is very disharmonic is in being very selective about what you allow to influence yourself. To influence you. Sorry about the bad grammar there. So my former landlord was obviously not fulfilled in his job of being a plumber, and sometimes came home from work feeling very unhappy. And that's hence the beer, and hence dissatisfaction and the exposure to the news and yelling at the TV, all those types of things. And everything about that approach to life and his own feelings of disempowerment, it's really disharmonic to me, because I'm all about like, well, if you don't enjoy your life or your life circumstances, you have to change things. You can't live a mediocre existence and then just use alcohol to cover that up. So we were in many ways at odds with each other in terms of our basic approaches to life. Got it? So the answer is, wherever possible, create circumstances for yourself where you are responsible and responsive to yourself, you're in control of your own environment, and not reliant upon or having to integrate with other people who are pretty much embracing disharmony and embracing dis-ease. Some people are so enamored with their dis-ease and the things that are disharmonic in their life that they're not going to change or let it go or fix it. Can be like, hey, like here's this thing that's making you feel bad and making you sick. Stop it. And they're not going to stop it. That is the sweat hub. You have to recognize that those bad students, poor students, exist in the world, as opposed to you. If you learned that something that you were eating, drinking, or doing was shortening your life and making the world crappier as a result, you would stop doing it, because you are not even just saying like you're good people. You are working hard to try to bring your life into greater levels of organization. So when I talked at the beginning of this class about the galactic superwave, it starts over here, it goes all the way across the whole entire galaxy. It organizes vast amounts of dust and gas, like giant cosmic nebulae, into actual planets where you can have actual life. Harmonics is an organization of principle. When you are exposed to good harmonics and effective harmonics, it helps you to stay organized, to stay alive, and to stay healthy. Okay? Real healing from ancient Egypt had to do with changing and improving the harmonics of a person's cellular structure. When you look at what makes a person's harmonics go out of tune, it is lifestyle stuff. Like when a person has a heart condition and their valves aren't working right, that's the end result of many, many years of bad music being played in their life. Bad events, bad diet, bad exercise habits, and a bunch of other things that made the heart go in the wrong shape. And then current medical mentality states, oh, let's put a new valve in there, sew it together, fix it mechanically, and doesn't look at all at well, did this person argue with their wife all day long? Or did they come home and drink a beer and yell at the TV? Or did they, have an unfulfilling life? Did they have an unfulfilling life and then develop disease as a result of that? Our present level of medicine is woefully bereft of any of those questions. It is reactive and not proactive. It just treats diseases and doesn't look at the disharmonies that create those diseases. Other real forms of healing look at the disharmonies in a person's mind state, emotional state, and relationships and life circumstances that create their diseases. And then in order to fix the body, you can't just mechanically fix the problem. You have to fix the harmonics of the entire thing, which is much harder. Because what if your disease happens because you hear loud garbage trucks every Monday morning? What if the doctor was like, oh, we've got your clipboard right here. We did a bunch of tests and we figured out your problem is you're allergic to loud garbage trucks. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, I don't know what to do because there's loud garbage trucks where I live, and you're going to have to sell your house, change your life, move someplace where there's not loud garbage trucks. Or you could petition your local city council and say, hey, these loud garbage trucks are making my health not so good. Can we put some kind of a quieter thing out there to be able to do things better? You're going to have to change your life. And most people are really not prepared to genuinely assess what is the origin of their disease and to change their life. What if it was like, why are you diseased? Because you're so disharmonic, like with your husband or your wife. What if the answer is like, you got to divorce your partner in order to not be so disharmonic? They're like, no, I'll take the open heart surgery, please. I don't think I can do that. So that's Aurora's Comedy Hour. Please don't forget to tip your waitress. But truthfully, a lot of people are very enamored with or connected to their disease, origins of their disease, and they're not ready to change the fine tuning of their life and change the harmonics of their behavior to bring forward greater levels of connection. And Mary Ellen says, unfortunately, I still work and have clients, but I won't Zoom with them any longer. The voice is enough to handle for me. So I would say, Mary Ellen, I have lots of people in my life. I do all sorts of different work. And I would wish for you to do something similar to what I have done, just to be able to create effective filters to filter out people who are disharmonic from being clients of yours. Because they might be perfectly great as clients of someone else, but working for you, these are like gears that do not mesh or flavors that don't taste good together. And that's why they might feel draining to you. If you are a person who works with clientele, or if you run your own personal business and you're like, but wait, if I don't work for these people or have them as my clientele, I'm going to go poor because I'm not going to have any money because that's the people that I work for. And I'm going to tell you, you replace the non-harmonic, not good puzzle pieces that are your clients with harmonic, much better shaped puzzle pieces for your clients. That works for anyone. If you are a hairdresser and you're like, yeah, I like cutting hair, but I just don't like cutting these people's hair. That means that you have to change who is your clientele so that when you're in the process of working with someone and cutting their hair and everything like that, you feel energized and positive, and they also walk away feeling energized and positive. And that also would be truthful if you are a custom framer, or if you are whatever, a dressmaker or a chef, anything. You make stuff for other people. You do stuff for other people. Find the right other people to serve, and then you will be harmonically complementary. It's win-win. And the other people that you are not serving are not going to sit around in the cold or live in a cardboard box or whatever, like live under an underpass or something like that. They will find someone else. Like if you're not going to cut their hair, they'll be like, I'm going to find a different barber and then have a better experience over there. That's what you want. So the issue is really not that I was a custom framer. It's that I was a custom framer in a frame shop where I worked for, the owner of the frame shop. And I was not the business owner, and I was not in a position to be able to filter people that came into the store or the people that wanted me to frame for them. I simply had to talk to and frame for every single person that came into that store. And that was very, very draining. Years later, I did leave that job and I did do some freelance custom framing out of my own studio. And life was really different because you know what? I got to frame for the clients that I thought I wanted to frame for. And if I didn't want to, I would simply say, no, thank you, or, find another framer, or, give them a quote that was not in their budget, whatever. There's all sorts of different ways to be able to not work with or for someone. So that was a much better time in my life because I could choose who I'm working for or with. That is what I would wish for you as well, Mary Ellen. So also consider that we're coming out of a chapter of human history and behavior very recently, like June 21st of this year. And now we are establishing new norms, new baseline structures of how we are supposed to act in this world. And harmonically integrating with your clientele should be a foundational value of our new way of doing things. The old way of doing things is like this. Hey, like if I run a restaurant or whatever, I want to get as many people in my restaurant as possible, serve as many bowls of soup as I possibly can, make as much money as I possibly can, and then send everybody home, like treating everyone as very interchangeable and generic and just like working in mass quantities. And that's not necessarily positive for the structure of time, space, and reality. When I am a responsible hospital, no, that's not the right one, hospitality. When I'm a responsible restaurateur, then what I want to do is serve exactly the people who are supposed to eat my food. Not everybody in the world is supposed to eat my food. There's billions of people in the world. I am not supposed to make food for billions of people. I'm supposed to make food for the people I am supposed to make food for. How do I connect with those specific people? And also, let's say I make a particular type of food, like lasagna, with a particular flavor palette. And I want to find the people who like my ingredients, as opposed to saying, how can I make the most popular food and sell billions to everyone, billions served? That's the definition of McDonald's, which is the definition of slop, which is the definition of like the worst food ever, a generic slop that is consumed by the entire world. And that's considered to be the pinnacle of success. No, I don't consider that success at all. So we must be selective in when you're a business owner or a product creator or a thing doer, selective in what you make, who you make it for, who you do the things for. It is not correct to say all humanity is interchangeable. I just want to get the most warm bodies in here and sell the most products as possible. That's that mania, like the dollar store mania. Just make a million things and make them all for $1 and then sell everything for $1. Like I just made a crazy face like that because that's crazy. You don't do that. You don't do that. You make stuff that people actually need and not just make a lot of random stuff. So the other ways of doing things are ways of diminishing truth, diminishing specificity, putting everyone into the same category, lumping everyone together and making everything one size fits all. And that's not harmonic at all. Because to do that, what you're doing is amputating the very tall people and, over expanding the very small people. And none of that is respectful in any way. So we must require a more harmonically calibrated life. And then we must make it for ourselves. So you begin by doing the things that are within your power to use your options whenever you're making a choice. Your food, your water, your clothing, your environment, who you interact with, like who you voluntarily interact with, and where you voluntarily go. If you can make those harmonically appropriate complementary choices, then your life will improve. And then the more of us that do that, the more our whole entire society improves. At a certain point, we're going to have a revolution in order to be able to completely supersede the slopification of one size fits all and depersonalization or way of making people like less unique as a presence, like the McDonald'sification of everyone. We're going to have to recognize, like, no, like harmonics, because look at the educational system and ways of making people like uniform and interchangeable, and none of that is truthful. So, like the themes that are going on here with human social dynamics. When I had parties where I thought all these flavors are going to fit, didn't work. All right. When I was in a job where I, as a unique flavor, had to talk to all these different people, I didn't fit with all those different people. When you allow people to self-organize, they will eventually create their own perfect harmonic dynamics. When you allow people to self-organize, that means like if you don't have rigid social values or barriers, people in their social mobility and who they choose to group themselves with will create harmonic, effective structures that have continued coherence and longevity. So and she goes on to say, I agree, but right now I work for someone. I'll probably drop my license and then start again for private practice next year. I attracted totally different clients before COVID. Yep, it's a very complex circumstance that you're in. I recognize that because when you are working for someone else and when you're not completely independent or owning your own business, then you walk a fine line about which clients you have to work with, who you have to talk to, and all those different things. So, Mary Ellen, I would wish for you to find greater levels of personal independence and the ability to express your own choices. And I don't have the word for it. Sorry, my brain is tired, but to express your own preferences in whom you work with and whom you don't. And that should be a life goal for all of us. And if you are a person who does some kind of work, does a service, whatever, you cut hair or you do mowing lawns or whatever, please know, you don't have to take everyone as a client. And it is your job to be selective. You do not have to work with or for everyone. This is a very, very positive promise to yourself, because once you give yourself that capacity to make that boundary, your life improves immensely. Because some people are not harmonically complementary to you, and you taking of their money or their job, like they give you a job, you get money from them, but the lack of engagement, the lack of gears in meshing drains you. So even if you might make $500 from the gig, you lose more than $500 in energy because you don't fit with those people. That's it. So you want to find your community, create your community, accrete the people around you in your community who share your values and who are good musicians, who are also doing similar things. This is why it is actually very challenging. Like if you've ever thrown a party, it is actually very challenging to have a successful party where everybody gets along. You have to really know the people and make good choices about who you invite. And if you don't know your friends or make good choices, then you will have a disaster. And then you will have to call the police. Come to my retreats, I'll tell you fun stories. It wasn't anything illegal. But we did have this one neighbor that she was a bad flavor. I was never going to invite her. She was just a bad person. And she would sometimes call the fire department on us because she saw that we're having a campfire. She was like, whatever, the, wicked witch up in the tower. And she would be like, they never invite me. I'm calling the police. So I would always get like a burn permit to be able to have the fire in case our mean neighbor called the fire brigade and they came and said, you got to douse this fire. I'd be like, I have a magical permit. We can have this fire. So zero fun stories. But the relevance is that I really had to learn. Sometimes neighbors are not harmonic. Sometimes they will be watching you from their window and you're having a nice campfire with your friends and they are not harmonic, meaning they are not celebrating you, meaning they are not wanting for you to be nourished and uplifted and go in a positive direction. I really had to learn about all of those malevolencies You don't want those people in your band. They're not going to be adding to the music. And I also had to learn about people who have positive values, but they don't fit with everyone else who has positive values. And so to sum this all up, in any level of harmonics, you have to set boundaries. You have to say, these are the notes that I consider to be music. And then you have to say, these are the notes that are not music in any way. You recognize that the assessment of music or non-music is totally arbitrary and based in your cultural judgment. It's fair, totally fair to say, because the guys from China think that certain things sound like music and they don't think that this over here sounds like music. It's totally fair. Totally fair. And because guys from China have different rules for who is allowed to come to the campfire under what circumstances, their world, their culture, their viewpoint. But I'm like, I am here and I'm in this world and I think that this is music and I think that this is socially appropriate behavior. Okay. So this is all important stuff to comprehend as you're looking at the recalibration of your culture. You're looking at moving away from dysfunction and disease and manufacturing or intentionally creating a new culture that is harmonically perfect. So that way you don't create a bunch of disease. It used to be, not so much now, because now there's so many chemical and environmental contaminants that it gives a lot of people diseases like cancer. But it used to be, way back in the old days, before so much chemical contamination and pollution, people mostly got cancer, and heart disease maybe is a better example, but because they were dissatisfied with their life, they weren't fulfilled by the relationships and activities of their life, and it led directly to disease. So right now, there's lots of things in our world that cause cancer and heart disease. Some of them are like subcutaneous. So you can't use the same standards, but for a long amount of time, disease was an expression of fulfillment or lack of fulfillment in people's lives. So the ability to, what would we say, to sculpt your environment so that it is complementary to your energy and brings you to greater levels of harmonic organization and integration is what allows you to keep on living. That's it. And you don't have to not work, but your work should be joyful and personally motivated. So like I said, I wasn't that happy when I had to work as a frame shop worker serving anyone who came in randomly, but I was much happier when I was a freelance freelance framer running things out of my own studio, and I could be selective about who I worked for. So think about this. This is what we're moving into as a chapter in humanity. You shouldn't just work at any job because you get some money from it. You shouldn't just eat any food because it seems to be able to be calories that you can consume. You shouldn't just hang out with any people just because they're around. You should work at the job that is the correct job for you, that brings you in touch with the correct people that are right for you and the correct circumstances that uplift you and bring you forward in time. And you should eat the correct food that is right for you in the amounts and timing that is right for you. Like customization, not just generalized one size fits all AI slop. Okay, good. All right. So let me just go through my notes really quickly. Sorry, in order to make sure I didn't lose anything that was super, super important. So when I go back to this concept of right now, you're learning how to cultivate your energy field. That is what flying your lasagna is. And when you're cultivating your energy field, you are having an impact on time, and you're having an impact on your DNA, and you're having an impact on your chakras. And all of this has everything to do with healing the debris from events of a long time ago that you had kind of like, imagine like a splash of paint onto the fabric of reality. And the paint splashes went everywhere. And we're still dealing with those paint splashes where we're trying to like clean up the vestigial traces of trauma and bad things that happened in, very, very other times of deep antiquity or other time scales that you lived in or that you experienced. When you wrangle your life now into some sense of harmonic, improved integration, you are healing the fabric of time. We use Mary Ellen as an example, not to put undue amounts of pressure on you or anything like that. But those clients that you're not feeling so great about having to interact with, they're all vestigial traces and fragments of screwed up things that happened on Mars, which are vestigial traces and fragments of screwed up things that happened on Tiamat. Vestigial traces and fragments of screwed up things that happened in the Orion Wars. So what you might be like, oh no, like I'm saying, the phone rings. It's like, oh no, it's this client. It's really like, oh no, time for me to talk with frag consciousness and emotional residues and fragments of long-term ancestral trauma. Hello, trauma. How you doing? Can I do my job and interact with you now? That's essentially what you're doing. And the best way to put those traces of trauma into a resolved and peaceful state is actually not to interact with them, not to run away from them, pretend that they don't exist. That is denial, but to send them to entropy, which is a restful state. So when you talk to things, you're not necessarily sending them to a restful state. You're energizing them, like telling kids bedtime stories. Like you're giving them more and more and more verbal energy. But what you need to do is take energy away from them, so that way they don't have physical life force, presence in time, or physical resources that support them. Don't give them verbal energy or attention, but you take energy away from them and send them into a restful state. These unpleasant people that have unpleasant characteristics are literally containing within their DNA these fragments of earlier and unresolved traumas. And the way that you heal those traumas is by essentially reshaping the behavior of your own DNA, your own chakras, or let's just say it this way, restoring your own perfect harmonics. When you are perfect harmonically integrated, you're like a Cuisinart of truth, chopping your way through the sea of awareness, and you create a type of stability of events and structure around you. And you are in a type of battle for supremacy between yourself and your structure and others who are not harmonic and they're not structured. And that is what disease is. Disease is not good structure in the body. So you're pretty much trying to see who's going to be stronger in the battle of wills. Yourself with your perfect harmonic structure, as opposed to this other person that has bad math, not good inner structure, not good personality characteristics, not good worldview, not good motivation, not good values, not good math. Who's in a battle of the bands? Who's going to win? And the answer is you're going to win. If you are more harmonically perfect, you're going to win. Means you're going to stay alive and you're going to keep on moving through time. And the people who are not well structured are not going to win. Means they're not going to stay alive. They're not going to still be here. They're not going to keep on moving through time. It's really, really important stuff for you to recognize there. I hope that I've articulated it well, because I feel like it's a difficult concept to grasp and for me to articulate. I'll try to go over it again more. But let me go to more earlier parts of my notes. Okay, to read from my notes. Original planetary invasion of the red-orange chakras is repeated in fractal microcosm in each subsequent human life development. So what you have is the original invasion or impending invasion in ancient concurrent Atlantis as a direct allegory for each time a human being is gestating in the womb and then is born and comes as like a perfect totality that then gets put askew with energy siphoned off, especially beginning in the red-orange chakras. That is a fractal truth that happens in each life and represents the larger planetary invasion and disarrangement at that level. When you arrange yourself into an optimum formation or circumstance for healing, that literally translates one reality shell upward or outward into healing for the larger planet or structure of time. So instead of saying like, I'm just one small stupid person, like if I heal myself, what good does that do? Because there's all this unhealed stuff around me. Please know that just like the opera singer's perfect round notes spread outward in a very loud voice, when you heal your body and you go from being disharmonic and diseased into being harmonic and healthy, you emit perfectly round time waves into the world, and that affects the entirety of the world. Each planetary orbit is analogous to a chakra, and the orbits also represent a level of consciousness or a world where consciousness is being explored. So when we talk about something bad has happened in the asteroid belt or something bad has happened on Mars, both of those places are places where in a pristine system, we were supposed to be learning and exploring a certain level of reality. And the fabric of time-space has become so disarranged in those areas that it's like, not only got kicked out of school, they blew up the school. You're not learning in those areas anymore. So back to, I was saying this about the planet Saturn. There was a time before Saturn became a prison and a repeater node of negativity in our world. It was a place where you went to learn certain life lessons. And our world, Earth, is also a place where you were supposed to come here to learn and embody certain truths. And all of that educational didactic purpose has really gone out the window. And now you're just here in this kind of like churning recycling center. But that's not what is supposed to happen. What is supposed to happen is that you go through the chakras and through the solar system. Go to the lessons here, master those lessons, graduate. Go to the lessons here, master those lessons, graduate. And you're doing that on these different planets that are like the chakras of the solar system. So you master the lessons of red, master the lessons of orange, and you master all these lessons up to divine reconnection. You're doing that as human society. I've already told you, like, we're at this level of dark blue, mastering those lessons and then reconnecting up at this level of violet. All of human history, all of biological history is you going through these levels of reality and mastering those lessons and then graduating to the next harmonic octave or chunk of reality that you can move through and master. So you're definitely not here for this endless or seemingly endless, purposeless recycling that humans have been in this world for a long time experiencing. No, you're really supposed to be free. And that's part of the circulation of energy. Like when you're socially free, you don't have to work for or have group interactions with people that you don't like. You move away from them and you don't hang out with them. And same thing with in time and on planets. So the real problem with your planet right now is that you are at a party that someone did not do good party planning for. And they invited a bunch of cool people and then a lot of inherently very uncool people that are here. And the uncool people have been here effing up the planet for a long amount of time. And somebody needs to call the police. Get those guys out of your party. All right. So I think I've gotten to most of the important things. Sorry, because part of what I wanted to talk about is solar system itself. And the wild repurposing of the way that events have happened in your solar system. Let me read here. It says, after the destruction of the planet between Mars and Jupiter, those life forms moved on to Mars, where they then created another dysfunctional culture and used technology unwisely. They destabilized both time and their own planetary structure, the atmosphere and the magnetic field, necessitating the movement to the next planet, which is Earth, and the invasion of our true genetic code, these time-trapped interlopers. Time-trapped interlopers. are the people that should not be invited to this party. They have not done good things. They have avoided responsibility. They have screwed things up for themselves and others. And they're not learning. They're not getting better. They are not getting better for interacting with you. You are getting worse from interacting with them. My life didn't get better because I interacted with like idiotic, time-wasting customers in my framing job. My life did not get better. Their lives might have gotten moderately better because they had nothing to do. They're like, I think I'll go to the store and talk to Aurora and annoy her and irritate her and then go home. Like that, they had nothing going on. I had a lot going on. They wasted my time. So these guys from Mars are the equivalent of the annoying, time-wasting customers. They got nothing going on. Means they don't have motivation, creativity. They're not building a civilization. They have nothing to contribute. They gain a lot by, wandering into your store and shooting the breeze with you and wasting your time. If you have things to do, you are like, how much longer is this conversation going to take? Because I have like 12 things to frame and you're wasting my time. Do you understand? Guys from Mars are getting a ton of energy. Their interactions with the native inhabitants on Earth. The native inhabitants on Earth, like, you have 12 things to frame. You do not need this stupid time-wasting conversation with these guys. You got a lot more to get done. And our world will be a lot better when we can set the boundaries to eject or separate those consciousnesses that are not supposed to be here, that are disharmonic, that are draining and time wasting for those consciousnesses who are supposed to be here. So selectivity, standards, or measurable values that are applied, and like sorting. These are all the things that are inherent in the concept of harmonics. And there is some sense of impersonality, like if notes do not sound good together, it is literally a mathematical truth. That it's not just about favoritism or capricious feelings about another person. So when we're looking at consciously assessing the dynamics on the planet right now, this is not just about saying, like, hey, kid, I don't like your face. You're not harmonic enough for me. It is measurable and it is mathematical. And it is fair to be able to say that certain genetic behaviors, personality characteristics, and overt personality behaviors are not harmonic. And it's fair to say that you don't want to have those flavors in the soup or those people playing their music in the band. And it's also fair to say that it is very, very difficult for you to remain a well-tuned harmonic instrument when you are interacting with or confronting those who are very badly disharmonic. They really do. There is influence. The disharmonic ones influence you. You want to think that you are influencing them to be more harmonic. I really think it's the opposite way around. They are detuning your guitar much more than you are tuning their guitar. Let's use as an example something like genetically modified food. I've told you many times that genetically modified corn is like guitars that are out of tune. Fields and fields and fields of out of tune guitars are playing their bad music. That's bad enough. But then if you eat the food that is made from those out of tune guitar kernels, that it puts you out of tune. All right. Let's say that you are an in tune person and you are confronted or confronting the people from Monsanto who make the out of tune guitars. Who is gonna win in this confrontation? Like, they are knowingly making out of tune food to disharmonize the environment and knowingly creating disease. And when you come up against that, they're going to disharmonize you. They're going to make you less harmonically perfect, less divinely connected, what's the word? Less coherent. And it's like wasting time for the customers who waste time. They benefit from the interaction. You are diminished by the interaction. And the answer is to get them out of your planet. They don't belong here. The answer is they don't belong in the band. So sometimes the answer is retuning. You're like, I know, I'll retune these Monsanto guys that way they're going to start making everything that makes us all super healthy again. They're never going to do that. That's a ridiculous dream. They will never change their song to that extent. Their song is really a song of disharmony and disease. Like, name a band that is disharmony and disease. Like, whatever, some heavy metal band. They're not going to change. They are not going to all of a sudden become the mathematical perfection of Bach. And when your cells listen to Bach, you really do heal, really do get better. You get smarter too. If you want to do your term paper or whatever, your homework, while you're listening to some music, do not put on heavy metal. Your brain will not work better. Your brain will work better when you put on Bach. It's just like a simple mathematical truth. Okay. There are, clearly personalities that are the equivalent of heavy metal, and they are not adding to the harmonic improvements of your world, and they are in every way causing the diminishment of your own body structure to be less well formed than it could be. And that's pretty much the synopsis of all of your conflict up until this point, but I don't want you to expect that the conflict will continue to unfold as it has for so long, because you are now in a new chapter. So all of those patterns will change and grow and be improved. Like, as I'm describing the way that things have been imperfect for a long amount of time, look at my own life. It didn't happen overnight, but I engineered my life so that I can be selective about who I spend time with, who I share energy with, who are my clients, whom do I serve, and also, like, who do I do business with? Like, who do I buy stuff from? Who do I get stuff from? Who serves me? And now I have a much more harmonically positive and engineered life and engineered community. I moved myself across the whole country, thousands of miles to do this. So again, if your doctor said your disease is coming from the sound of garbage trucks in the morning, and you're like, well, I don't know how to fix that because that just is part of my town, maybe you might have to change your town where you live. These are things to re-examine and reassess the foundations of how your life is set up, so that way you can become more harmonically optimized. Okay, so harmonic optimization in a lot of ways is going to require a complete reassessment of everything from the foundation, including your own life and who you're surrounded with, and your whole entire planet and your communities. And that's tall order, and that's how you should think of these things. So I know that this was meant to be like a lighthearted music sharing, and that's how I've done it in previous times, to just talk about the abstraction of harmonics and music. But I really had to relate it a lot to your human dynamics and your physical bodies. And I think it also relates a lot to, where's my piece of paper of sadness? The things that are on this piece of paper are really all things that are incredibly disharmonic. They are very much out of tune. And being in this world where those things are going on, it's difficult to stay in tune. And when you are in a community where other people have those things in them or are emitting them, it is very difficult for you to stay in tune. The opera singer with their perfect voice influences those around them. But now let's talk about a bad singer who sings in front of a microphone. Here's my big microphone. Don't have a good voice, but the microphone will amplify it. These things are an amplification of the bad DNA music. And it makes people's bad music loud and almost inescapable, and it influences your cellular structure and your good music. So at a certain point, it is non-negotiable. Like, if my next door neighbor was playing heavy metal music very loud, I would have to knock on their door and say, "Can you please turn that down, put on your headphones, because my cells of my body don't want to listen to your bad music. We have to do something similar in our world where we cannot have certain organisms that are genetically disarranged and they are not good singers. And they've been given a microphone to sing their heavy metal music into communities, and they are causing disease for themselves and others. We have to take the microphone away from them, and we have to make sure that we put in the earphones so that we don't listen to them, get them away from us. No, but for real, for real. And I'm not just talking about someone who might have had this stuff in them, because I know that some people in this class have had those things put inside of them. It's not just that you get those things injected. It's also a couple of other factors too. So it's not just having tiny micro machines in your body, but it's a variety of things that make it's too simplistic to say it's only the people that participated in the subcutaneous campaign. It's a lot of different things. So I think my brain is definitely tired, and I want to stop before I say things that are not like fully accurate. If my vocabulary is not exactly correct, because I always want people to know, like, you're in my class and you're a good person and you participated in these things, you know, there is definitely hope for you. I don't want you to think that there's no hope for you. But, and also, if you are a healthy person in this world and you want to stay healthy, you should probably limit the people that you're exposed to, because some of the people that have this stuff in them are emitting this stuff like a bad voice that is amplified by a microphone, and the stories and the songs that are being emitted are not life affirming. They are not healthy. So these are very real considerations of ethics when you start to consider how harmonics influences one another, and responsibility towards yourself and towards your community or your environment. Look at the solar system. You know, you're like, well, I'm just here on Earth trying to live my life, have a good life, because there are problems on Venus and on Mercury and on Mars and on Tiamat. Now I'm having problems in my home. This is how things happen. Like if your neighbors get robbed, and you're like, well, it's not that great for them, but at least my home is fine. The robbers come to your house too. So it's really necessary to say, you recognize that harmonics represents a type of reciprocal influence. It is the representation of frequency, interactions, and dynamics. Harmonics is more than just an expression of patterning and truth. It is also about the value system of confrontations between wildly varying frequencies. And where a hot front meets cold front in the weather, like the atmosphere, you get tornadoes. Where frequencies do not match and they are interacting, you get friction, you get conflict. And pretty much in your world right now, you have like 100% friction, because you have people who are harmonically moving towards greater levels of organization versus people who are not harmonically integrated and they are moving towards greater levels of disorganization. And there's like, welcome to your world. And you're like, I know, Aurora, it's not that comfortable. So yeah, I have accurately described your world, but I would prefer to, we're going to wrap things up, leave you on a note of practicality, like what to do. I'm always big on reminding you what is the true nature of flying rainbow lasagna, because this is an oscillation of your individual waveform presence self that has a huge impact, like an opera singer, putting that music outward into the world. You know, cymatics basically means, and the galactic superwave concept, when you have a bunch of stuff gets more organized when you expose it to good music. Oh, look, my little thing over here is making like beautiful rainbows. That thing is making rainbows. It's a little crystal that's over there. Awesome. So we're getting beautiful light codes right now. Yes, when you are, well calibrated, you are emitting beautiful music, and your beautiful music calibrates everything around you. So, like when you are healthy and well integrated and walk around your community, you have an impact on others, bringing them towards greater levels of organization, And the world, like when you live your life in a well integrated way, you bring greater levels of coherence and organization into the world. Do that. Do that. Do that. And believe me, although it seems like, a giant pile of SHIT, a lot of disorganized stuff. You're like, how come little old me, little old you really does organize those things? Because think about the pile of talcum powder or the planetary nebula of dust and gas in the vacuum of space with, or I want to say void of space, giant musical waves moving through these substrates. You organize. You are the music that is able to organize stuff around you. So, and now bring it into a greater level of like just personal truth. Your physical body is like the solar system. It is the end result of organizational waves of potential moving through matter. Without those organizational harmonic waves of potential that are your mind, your consciousness, and your chakras, coherent family of light, you would just be a pile of goo. You would not actually be a functional human being. So the way that you are able to be alive is because you contain harmonic truth. What you need to do is turn up the volume on your harmonic truth so that you're like this loud, like super loud, and also make sure that your harmonic truth does not get diluted by being around others who are not well calibrated. And that's very hard. Like when you're in a chorus and you are singing and you're a good voice, but you're surrounded by not good singers, you have to be just like, don't listen to them. Listen to you and continue to sing in a way that you know is correct. Okay. Joyce says, you are a wonderful professor. I'm grateful to know you. Thank you for teaching us this valuable information. Love to Chiki too. Thank you so much. Your beautiful encouragement. You are like Gatorade on the marathon of my life. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. I appreciate your excellence as a student and also the gratitude that you send to me. So thank you very much. And in fact, let me say a thank you and gratitude to everybody who's in this class, because you are literally the good people, the best people in this world. You are the ones who are, trying to become better formed, to learn, to grow, to accrete more light, embody more light, to be a more harmonic presence. Thank you for coming here and listening to me for several hours each week. What I'm sending out helps you to be more organized. Thank you for internalizing it. And then thank you for adding that to your own life and to the people that are in your life, because you definitely help to make our whole entire planet, all of our music a lot better. And Lisa says, I'm so grateful for you and Chiki and so sensitive to the music. Thank you for everything. You're so welcome. I'm very grateful when I know that people are listening to my music. I love it. I am actually really into my music. I would wish for that to be like my entire source of income. So envision that for me one day. But boy, oh boy, making my songs and knowing that they're getting out there and that people are getting impacted by them is everything to me. Because I really put a lot of positive, intentional harmonics into there so that way you will feel it. So I'm very, very pleased. You're so welcome. And Jessica says, thank you. And Julia's saying thank you. And Michael says thank you. And Elmer says thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. All right, good. So now did a lot of heavy work, heavy lifting, everyone. Just take a break. All right, go home and eat some protein. Take care of your dogs and cats. Let everything percolate through, okay? So give your brain a little bit of time off, okay? Thank you very much. Profound gratitude. And thank you to everybody who catches this recording in the archive if you can't be here at the moment of the recording of our class. Thank you so much, everyone.